Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So just a heads up for the brothers. Sisters already know they're having a good time over there, but the brothers, alhamdulillah, we also have people making drinks for their pop-up cafe today, but it's happening upstairs. So if anybody's interested in getting a drink, some coffee or anything else before the halaqah starts, inshallah ta'ala, feel free to make your order upstairs, and then we have people that will come bring it to you, inshallah, so you can come back and sit down. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Just a quick update about tonight's program, inshallah ta'ala. We are going to start promptly after Isha, inshallah. So promptly after Isha, we'll start right away. Barakallahu fikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله
What's your official title at Mufti? Contractor? Contractor. How should I introduce him as? Coffee shop owner? Helper?
You said bio data for later, not right now. You said bio data for later, not right now.
It's a good idea. Why don't after hearing your sites, we ask if anybody's interested?
This is not good news. He's one of the event directors of the fast.
Okay.
Give him a nice title.
Directors. What are the directors?
Event. Can't use that word too easily.
Executive director.
As long as I raise the funds. The thing is, Miftah, no one has a title.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like,
That's
it goes
why-
top down.
That's why the organization's all chaotic, right?
That's why it's not chaotic, exactly. It doesn't have so many titles now. I gotta see it.
Everyone's got six others. I'm Chief Seattle, obviously. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. So we get started inshallah ta'ala. So first I want to introduce our teacher for the evening inshallah. After I introduce our teacher for the evening, I will ask Brother Usama, who is also part of Miftah team, alhamdulillah. He'll come up, he'll do a short Quran recitation for us to start off the evening and bring barakah to this gathering, inshallah. So, Mufti Abdul Wahab, mashallah, he is someone who has been involved with learning the deen at a very young age. He memorized the Quran, finished memorizing the entire Quran by the time he was 11 years old, mashallah, tabarakallah. I found out how old he is today, so I'll tell you that was a very long time ago, mashallah, right? Alhamdulillah. But on that path, he has been involved on the journey of knowledge ever since. Spent 7 years in Toronto, Canada, studying the deen in the sciences and specializing in fiqh, hence the Mufti title, and then also was able to go to Karachi, Pakistan, and also do a further specialization in hadith as well. So very rich in knowledge, and so we're very excited to benefit from him today. So with that being said, I'm now going to invite Brother Osama to come up and do a Quran recitation for us. Barakallahu feekum.
لقد صدق الله رسوله الرؤيا بالحق لتدخلن المسجد الحرام إن شاء الله آمنين محلقين رؤوسكم ومقصرين لا تخافون فعلم ما لم تعلموا فجعل من دون ذلك فتحا قريبا هو الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله وكفى بالله شهيدا محمد رسول الله والذين معه أشداء على الكفار رحماء بينهم تراهم ركعا سجدا يبتغون فضلا من الله ورضوانا سيماهم في وجوههم من أثر السجود ذلك مثلهم في التوراة ومثلهم في الإنجيل كزرع أخرج شطأه فآزره فاستغلظ فاستوى على سوقه يعجب الزراع ليغيظ بهم الكفار وعد الله الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات منهم مغفرة وأجرا عظيما صدق الله العظيم.
Takbir. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wow, that sounds like your weather. Let's try that again, guys. Bismillah. And I'm coming from Detroit. It's not saying Allah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's beautiful, mashallah. As a disclaimer, this laptop does not belong to me. This belongs to your masjid. This also doesn't belong to me. May Allah, and everything that's here is set up by your community. Miftah, tablecloth, shouldn't probably be here. We're just visiting as a speaker, as a scholar. Ustad Akram, Sheikh Akram, and the beautiful community of MAP Seattle put everything together. We're just here to benefit with the time that we have with you all, and inshallah, hopefully provide some benefit as well. And hopefully, we're all able to learn a little bit about the life of Bilal radiyallahu anhu in the next 2 hours that we have together. If I go a little bit over time, please forgive me. And inshallah, hopefully that's also beneficial. Inshallah. Who are we learning about today? Bilal? Yeah, sure? You're the right companion? Alhamdulillah. Whose favorite Sahaba is Bilal? Raise of hands. Anyone so far? Top 5. Top 5? Okay, top 5. If it's not in your top 5 after today's session, I'm hoping that it will be in your top 5 as well, inshallah ta'ala. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد النبي العالمين الذي اسمه مكتوب في الإنجيل والتوراة أما بعد فقد قال الله تعالى في كتابه العزيز بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم محمد رسول الله والذين معه أشداء على الكفار رحماء بينهم تراهم ركعا سجدا يبتغون فضلا من الله ورضوانا وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أصحابي كالنجوم بأيهم اقتديتم اهتديتم أو كما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. My dear brothers, sisters, elders and youngsters, one thing that is very clear from a very surface level review of the companions of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, one aspect that is very clear even from a surface review of these great companions of the Prophet ﷺ, is that these were individuals who all came from different backgrounds. These were people who came from different ethnicities, different demographical backgrounds, different financial backgrounds. Each of them had their own journey. Each of them had their own story. Each of them had their own past. Some used to be the princes of Mecca, and they became people who were quite limited and impoverished, like Mus'ab. Some were individuals who were slaves that turned into leaders. Some were people who were unknown that Allah made known. Some were people who came from poverty. Allah gave them wealth. They all had their own story. They all had their own background. And the story of Bilal radiyallahu anhu is no different. Who was a companion whose family came with the army of Abraha. The army of Abraha that came to destroy the Kaaba, is how the father Rabah and the mother Hamama or Hanana, how these two people ended up in Mecca. They came in the army of Abraha. Allah's decree is always unique. Allah's decree has wisdom. Who would have known that from the army that came to destroy the Kaaba, there would be a family who would have a child, and that child would be the flag bearer of this deen. Just like how all Sahaba had a different background, our dear companion Bilal ibn Abi Rabah radiyallahu anhu was no different. Born and raised in the desert of Mecca with no family lineage, in a time and an era where if you didn't have a lineage, your presence was ignored, your voice was not heard, and your opinion was never taken. And in time and an era where people will look at you and act as if you don't exist if you don't have communal support. But my dear friends, Islam never asks. Allah never asks where you came from. Our religion isn't here to ask us where we came from. We all have different backgrounds too. Everyone here has a different journey, and my journey and your journey can never be used as a way to pacify our inability to stand up for the truth. Our journey is not a reason for us to step back. Everyone has a different journey. But Allah in this deen do not ask us where we came from. That's not the question that Allah's deen asks. Where did you come from is not the question. Rather the question is, فَأَيْنَ تَذْهَبُونَ? Where are you going? What's your plan? What's your next step? What is your intended outcome? Where you came from doesn't really matter to this deen. What my journey was like till the point that I got here is irrelevant to the degree of where am I going from today onwards. If the companions relied upon speaking about the journeys of the past and who they were before they became Muslim, we wouldn't know them as we know them today. The question for us is, where are we going? We don't know Bilal because he was from the army of Abraha. We know Bilal because he chose to have an intended goal that was very clear to him. فَأَيْنَ تَذْهَبُونَ? Where are we going? And that is how the journey of Sahabas began, because they all had a different starting point. And my starting point and your starting point should never be a way to make us feel incapable or to make us feel too comfortable. Because there were people in Mecca who had a better starting point than Bilal. There were people in Mecca who had a head start on their journey towards being the closest companions and associates to the Prophet ﷺ, but they're nowhere to be heard or seen. His own family members were not given that honor because it doesn't really matter what my lineage is. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَنظُرُ إِلَى صُوَرِكُمْ وَلَا إِلَى أَجْسَامِكُمْ وَلَكِنْ يَنظُرُ إِلَى قُلُوبِكُمْ وَأَعْمَالِكُمْ. Allah doesn't look at where we came from, the color of our skin. Bilal isn't a companion that we highlight because he was a black, handsome, tall companion who had hazel eyes and his voice struck the chords of the hearts of anyone that would hear it. We honor his name because he was an individual who sacrificed his life for the love of the Prophet ﷺ. The details about who he was and how he looked are tertiary. They're mundane. The reality is what he did is what made him. It's not about who he was and where he came from that made him. It's about what he did. أَيْنَ تَذْهَبُونَ? Where are we going from today onwards? Some of us may have started our journey just a few weeks ago. Some of us a few years ago. Some of us, maybe our parents pushed us and propelled us towards this deen. But what am I doing with it from now on? And this is what we learn from how the stories of these companions take us. That Islam doesn't ask us about lineage. It doesn't ask us about our backgrounds. It asks us, what are you going to do with what you got? أَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. We have the talent that we have. What are we going to make of it? And the story of Bilal radiallahu anhu begins, and he was born, they say, 2 years after the Prophet ﷺ. Some say maybe 3 years after the Prophet ﷺ. So around the same age. Though when you hear him having his relationship or his conversations with the Prophet, you would assume that he's far younger than the Prophet ﷺ, due to his humility in the way that he would approach his Habib ﷺ. But his journey of Islam begins when one day, Ibn Asakir rahmatullahi narrates that one day the Prophet ﷺ was walking through the different mountains of Mecca with Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, and he saw Bilal with some goats, and it was the norm of the Arabs to be extremely hospitable and hospitable. So if you were to ask them for something, they would give it to you. The Prophet ﷺ, he goes ahead and he says to Bilal, he doesn't know who Bilal is, he says to him, can I get some milk? Let me cancel this, okay. He says, can I get some milk? And Bilal radiallahu anhu says, these camels, or rather these goats, don't belong to me. وَمَا عِنْدِي إِلَّا قُوتُ يَوْمِي. All I have that I own is the amount of milk that is allowed for me to drink. I don't have anything else. And these goats are weak, there's not that much milk within them. The Prophet touches the animals, and as the miracle of the Prophet, as we've heard multiple times, the animal is filled with milk. The Prophet drinks, Abu Bakr drinks, Bilal drinks, and upon seeing this, he's astonished, he's touched by the miracle of the Prophet. He says, yeah, who are you? And the Prophet says, my name is Muhammad. He says, well, who are you and what do you call towards? He says, I'm the Prophet of Allah, and he gives him the simplest da'wah 101, that I call towards the oneness of Allah and the reality of the hereafter. Upon hearing the Prophet's simple da'wah, simple, not overwhelming words, Bilal radiallahu anhu said, Ya Rasulullah, I believe in you. This is why the Prophet says that as-subaqu arba'a, as-subaqu arba'a, the forerunners that will be on the front lines on the day of judgment to enter Jannah are four. He says that Salman sabiqul furus, wa Suhaib sabiqul rum, wa Bilal sabiqul habasha, wa ana sabiqul arab. The Prophet says the people who will be leading the charge towards Jannah, the individuals who have competed and have succeeded, are four. That you have Salman, who will be the leader of the lines of the people of Jannah from Persia, meaning out the Ajams, all of the Ajams. So people who are from the subcontinent region will perhaps be standing in the line of Salman. And then he says that Suhaib is the holder of the flag bearer of all of those who've come from the Roman Empire, from Europe. And then he says, Bilal is the sabiq of all of those who come from Africa and Habasha. And I am the forerunner of those who come from the Arab. In simpler words, the Prophet ﷺ associates the honor of Bilal with himself. He says, اشتاقت الجنة إلى ثلاثة. The Prophet ﷺ says that Jannah, think of this. This is such a profound, simple yet profound narration. اشتاقت الجنة إلى ثلاثة. This class is not only supposed to make us fall in love with Bilal, it's supposed to make us fall in love with the things that Bilal did to earn that love in our hearts. It's not just Bilal, it's what did he do that we love him today. اشتاقت الجنة إلى ثلاثة. The Prophet says Jannah yearns for three people. Jannah yearns for three people. Jannah hopes for these three people to enter within it. And this hadith is mentioned in Sunan Nasa'i, authenticated. It's Ali wa Ammar wa Yasir. Wa Ali wa Ammar wa Bilal. Jannah is yearning to have these three. Ali, Ammar, and Bilal radiyallahu anhu. The Prophet speaks about the virtue. And Anas ibn Malik radiyallahu anhu, in one narration, he says that the first 7 people, سبعة أول من أظهر إسلامه, the first 7 people to openly accept Islam. And Bilal radiyallahu anhu was accepted with consensus across the board that he was amongst the first 10 to become Muslim. Some say first 5, some say 7, but the first 10. But it is clear that the first 7 people to openly accept Islam and call towards the oneness of Allah are 7. And this hadith is mentioned by the Prophet ﷺ through Anas ibn Malik radiyallahu anhu. He says, number 1, the first person was none other than the Prophet ﷺ. And then, any guesses? Khadija? Yeah, yes, Khadija as well, but Adhara Islamuhu wasn't Khadija. Adhara. And even in this, you don't have Ali either. Number 2 was Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu. Number 3 was Sumayya. Number 4 was her husband, Yasir. Number 5 was their son, Ammar. Number 6 was the great companion, Miqdad. And number 7 was none other than Bilal, radiyallahu anhu. So once again, the Prophet ﷺ, number 2, Abu Bakr, number 3, Sumayya, number 4, Yasir, number 5, Ammar. Imagine the family, the first, out of the 7, 3 of them are from one family. Right? Then Miqdad, then Bilal radiyallahu anhu. And the narrator mentions that each of them, the Prophet and Abu Bakr had their tribes that protected them. And the rest of them, when the persecution began, not out of any negativity towards them or not out of any weakness of faith, but they were allowed to concede. Such was the case of Ammar when he saw his father and mother being persecuted and killed to become the first martyrs of our beautiful deen. And he saw his mother being killed in front of his eyes and his father. And when Abu Jahl came upon him and he said, "Do you still believe in the religion of Muhammad?" And he turned away and he said, "I don't." Because he just saw what he saw. And he runs to the Prophet ﷺ and says, "Ya Rasulullah, I've irtadtu. I have left the fold of Islam." And he's crying. And the Prophet ﷺ, he says, "Are you crying because your parents became shaheed, or is there something else that is concerning you? Because your parents are in Jannah." He says, "Ya Rasulullah, I'm not simply crying because my parents are shaheed. I'm crying because I believe that I left the fold of Islam." And the Prophet ﷺ had no answer for it until Allah revealed in the Quran, إِلَّا مَنْ أُكْرِهَ وَقَلْبُهُ مُطْمَئِنٌ بِالْإِيمَانِ. That if a person is forced against their will to say statements that go against their iman, it will not be held against them. And their heart is filled with iman. He says the only one who did not concede to the pressure was Bilal radiyallahu anhu. That his owner, being Umayyah ibn Khalaf, when he found out that Bilal became a Muslim because he exposed himself. The beauty of a blessing, my dear friends, is that it's very difficult to contain it. It's very difficult to contain it. A person who has a nice car doesn't want to keep the car in the garage the entire year. A person who has a nice watch puts the watch on. A person who has nice clothes wears their clothes. The more blessings that I have, the more I wish to have them and to show them and to wear them in my life. How can it be that Allah gave me the blessing of iman and I somehow do not have the willpower to expose it? It's either because I don't see it to be a blessing, Or it's that I don't recognize the value of it being seen by people. My dear friends, the reality of life is that everything in our life is either a burden or a blessing. There's no third option. Everything in our life is imma shakirun wa imma kafura. It's either a blessing or a burden. And one of the greatest signs to be able to recognize that my relationship with something is a blessing or a burden is how we react when it increases in our life. A burden is of such a nature that when something increases in our life, so for example, the employer or the boss says, you know what, you have to spend more hours at work, or you have more tasks to do. The nature of that is, oh man, I have to do more. That means it's a burden upon me. More schoolwork, more work, more time in the office. That's a burden. Whereas a blessing is of such a nature that when someone says, hey man, I'm giving you more money, no one grimaces. No one hesitates because the blessing fulfills a person. Right? This is the reality. So Islam is the same way. Is it a blessing or is it a burden? How did it become such a natural statement for us to say that, you know what, I made it in life. I made it to Amazon, Microsoft, GM, physician, whatever I am in my life, I made it despite being a Muslim. When did despite become a word used with a blessing in our life? Have you heard anyone say that I made it in life despite having my parents with me my entire life? You know, I made it in life despite not having to worry about student loans. I made it in life despite being born and raised in the country of opportunities. No one uses the word despite with blessings. People use the word despite with struggles and burdens. And we've been tricked into saying despite with deen, that I made it in life despite the fact my name is Muhammad, or despite the fact my name is Fatima. When did Islam become a burden in my life? We say I made it despite I was sick. I made it despite my parents had passed away. When did Iman become a burden upon us? Now, I didn't make it despite my deen, I made it because of it. I made it, this is the nature, that when a person exposes, when they have a blessing, they wish to expose it. It's difficult to contain it. And that's how Bilal was. And he exposes Iman and his master, Umayyah ibn Khalf. Umayyah, very few people know this, he actually loved Bilal. He was his star employee. Bilal was very good at what he did. He was extremely, extremely talented. He just happened to be born in a very difficult situation. But he was a very talented man. So when he said Ahad and he started saying that I'm a Muslim, Umayyah ibn Khalaf he went majnoon because of it. A craze hit him. He said, how can my slave under my nose, in my house, choose to leave the religion of my forefathers? And the persecution began. Right? Where Amr ibn Aws says that we would walk by and we would see Bilal radiallahu anhu laying on the scorching, the sand of the desert of Mecca with the sun above him, that لو وضعت, if we were to drop a piece of meat upon that land and it was not cooked, if it would touch the sand, لنضجت, it would cook because of the heat of the floor at that time. Such heavy heat. One day the Prophet Umar radiallahu anhu walked into a room and he saw a companion by the name of Khabbab. Khabbab ibn Arath was also a companion that struggled a lot. And he was sitting on a nice cushion, sofa-like spot. He was just chilling. And Umar radiallahu anhu walked in and he said, ما أحد عليك حق بهذا المجلس. That no other person has a right to sit here other than you, except for Bilal. Except for Bilal. Because of how much he had to experience. Well, Amr ibn Aws says he wasn't a Muslim. He says, we would see the children of the people of Mecca, the leaders of Mecca, carrying the ropes and dragging the ropes of Bilal that were around his neck and his arms shackled around the streets of Mecca to humiliate him. When they can't beat you physically, they try to beat you mentally. They try to show videos on screens about how Muslims are so and so, and they can't make it because of this. The propaganda has always been around. The packaging has just changed. The propaganda has always been around. Let me make a lesson out of this person who spoke. our sister who spoke up, our brother who spoke up for the people of Gaza. Let's make a lesson out of them to make sure that no one else dares to speak up. No one else dares to speak about the genocide in Sudan and in the different countries in the world. Let's make a lesson. The propaganda has always been there. Bilal, let's drag you around. Let's show you off to the people of Mecca that no one else should dare stand against their masters and proclaim a religion other than the religion of their forefathers. And as boulders on his back, being persecuted. And this is the reality of Iman, my friends. That the moment our Islam becomes public, right? Everyone's okay with me praying in the house. Everyone's okay with my name being the way it is within my circles. The challenge becomes when I'm ready to hold that and walk with that mantle in spaces that are not comfortable with it. It's not convenient for me. Then people feel, when they said to Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu, Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu was about to leave Mecca. And as he's leaving Mecca, a man comes to him and he says, why are you leaving Mecca for? He says, because when I pray, they don't let me pray. So he takes him back to the city. I'm just paraphrasing as a side note. He says to the people of Mecca, Abu Bakr is within my amnesty and safety, no one can harm him. And they say to the man that the only way we will let Abu Bakr stay in Mecca radiyallahu anhu, is that if he prays, but he doesn't read his qira'ah and his Quran out loud. Meaning, you can do whatever you want in the secrecy of your home. We just don't want it to be public. We don't want your practice of your faith to be known to people. Because the moment it's felt by people, the truth is very powerful. And falsehood is very insecure. It's very vulnerable. It's very insecure. That the slightest exposure of the truth can make it waver, can make it wither away. The slightest exposure of the truth can make it crumble. And this is why the one day that a man came to the Prophet and said, Ya Rasulullah, inni la uhibbuk. Ya Rasulullah, I love you. I love you. And the Prophet said, Fandur mada taqul. Be watchful of your words. He says, what do you mean, Ya Rasulullah, I love you? The Prophet said, no, I'm telling you, be watchful of what you're saying. 3 times he repeats it. And the 4th time the Prophet says, if that's a reality and you're truthful upon that statement, then you should wait for a day to come upon you that difficulties will swarm upon you like how water comes down a hill. That it will happen. That Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi says that aslu dunya al-bala, that the default state of life is difficulty. The default state of life is difficulty. So Bilal, when he speaks up and he's being persecuted, and I want you to pay attention to this idea or just this concept. Bilal radiyallahu anhu is a slave in Mecca. He's a slave. He's not a big personality. He's not someone that is known in the city of Mecca. He's not a big, wealthy businessman in Mecca or wealthy businesswoman in Mecca whose accepting of Islam has an effect on the status quo. He is, for the lack of a better word, low class. He's a slave in Mecca. So why is it so that his acceptance of Islam, his proclamation of the faith, has such a heavy impact on the people around him? Sometimes we say, you know what? One day when I finally make it to the top of the food chain, I'm then going to stand up for the people of Gaza. I will then talk about the people of Sudan. I will then talk about the injustice happening within my own family and community. When I make it, right now, I haven't made it. My dear friends, Allah doesn't need me. Allah doesn't need you and me. There's no calculating when we should speak for the truth. There's no planning when we should speak for the truth. There's no making a timeline about when I should stand up for the truth, because right now, maybe my voice doesn't matter. No, that's not true. That's shaitan's whisper in my head saying that you don't have enough to speak, just stay quiet. No one cares about you anyways. Well, no one cared about Bilal before he said Ahad. Bilal's voice was not something that made the mountains of Mecca shake because he was Bilal. He made the mountains of Mecca shake because he was radiyallahu an. After he became a Muslim. Before he became a Muslim, no one cared about what Bilal said. His opinion didn't matter to the people of Mecca. His statements had no value to the elites of Mecca. He was just another slave. You speak or don't speak doesn't affect us. We think that if we make it, then we will speak. By that time, Allah won't need us. Allah can take the work of deen from an ant in the story of Sulaiman. Don't wait. That one day when I'm finally comfortable in my life, then I'll make a change in my life to only speak the truth, to only eat to only eat what is halal, to only consume which is permissible, to avoid gatherings that are haram. Man, no, now is the time. Not when I make it, because there is no goodness that can come from a process of haram. Everything that comes from haram will be haram. In Islam, the ends do not justify the means. We are process-centric, we are not outcome-driven. Our process matters. The outcomes can be questionable, but the process matters. He is laid in the sun of Mecca with a boulder on top of his stomach or his back, and as he's laying there being persecuted, he says, Ahad. Ahad. My dear friends, the voice of Bilal was so faint. The voice of Bilal was so faint when he would say Ahad that Umayyah ibn Khalaf would have to lean down and come low to his mouth to hear what he was saying. Ahad. It wasn't a protest that shook Mecca. There weren't heavy voices that shook Mecca. There were hearts that were connected to Allah that shook it. Loudness is not synonymous to being heard, my friends. And silence is not synonymous to weakness. Just because I'm loud doesn't mean that I'm being heard. They have louder voices than us in Batil. They have all the news outlets. They have louder voices. They have greater outlets of channels. Being loud doesn't mean that we're being heard. And wallahi, being silent doesn't mean that we are weak. After all, it is in those silent, still moments of the night where the most precious du'as and supplications are accepted. Where there's a stillness, it's as if we can hear the wind moving next to us. That du'a is accepted in the eyes of Allah. In the stillness, where nothing can be heard. Ahad. A protest can have an impact. But Bilal's voice of Ahad is so faint that it can't even be heard by people. Yet it is making Batil crumble. Why was Batil crumbling? My dear friends, falsehood is extremely insecure. The presence of the truth will make it run away. قُلْ جَاءَ الْحَقِّ وَزَهَقَ الْبَاطِلِ. You know what that means, right? You know, I'm not a watch guy, so I don't really know watches. But let's say, for example, I had a fake Rolex. I'm walking around with a fake Rolex, but none of you guys know it's fake. Next thing you know, your Imam Akram walks in with a real Rolex. Seattle has them good like that, you know. I'm talking about he's from the top tier. You know what I'm saying? So, nonetheless, I have this fake Rolex, and he walks in with a real Rolex, right? You know what I'm going to do quickly? As he walks up, I'm going to what? Put my fake Rolex away and hide it. Yo, it just broke right now. Let me put it away for a second. Because now you can tell that mine's a fake. You can tell mine's a fake. The same reality works for the truth. That when the truth exposes itself, it doesn't have to be loud. It simply has to be present. My presence is the deterrent of falsehood. But if I can't be present with my identity, because I've always been taught to assimilate to the point that I don't have an identity left that differentiates me, then what's the point of being me? Then I might as well just be everyone else's name. Assimilation is only useful if it allows me to benefit my people, if it allows me to benefit my call, my mission. We don't assimilate to get lost. We assimilate to have impact. Ahad, so silent, yet it was heard everywhere. They say that one person's voice cannot make a difference. They say that one person's voice cannot make a difference. And I ask you, why was the voice of Bilal so powerful? We say, you know what, I'm only one sister. I'm only one brother. What difference can I make? My dear friends, even if we were thousands in numbers, the reality is that we can't make a difference anyways. The difference comes from Allah. وَمَا رَمَيْتَ إِذْ رَمَيْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ رَمَى. Allah creates impact. Whether I am few in number or I am I have a heavy number on my side, the impact ultimately comes from Allah. بِيَدِكَ الْخَيْرِ. So this is what Bilal radiallahu anhu is experiencing. And an important takeaway from this is that, the reality is Bilal was shackled. But you and I can all affirm that him saying Ahad was a sign of his freedom. Some people are shackled, but wallahi they're free. They're incarcerated. They're imprisoned unjustly, behind bars for years, like our sister Afia Siddiqui and so many others. But they're free. Your liberation does not mean that I'm and there's so many people who are physically free, but their hearts and minds are shackled. We can't choose what to wear. We're not allowed to choose how to dress. We're not allowed to choose where to send our kids to school. We're not allowed to choose what our kids learn in school. We're not allowed to choose what we want to eat. We're not allowed to choose what networking gathering we are and not allowed to go to. We're not freed. Being physically free on July 4th doesn't mean liberation. It simply means that you are a slave of someone else's network. This is freedom. Enslaved by the people of Mecca, but my voice cannot be controlled by any power. The power of that time was Umayyah ibn Khalaf. We have powers of our times today as well that will tell us what to say and how to say it. In that moment, think of you being Bilal. We honor Bilal not because he was the mu'adhin of the Prophet. We honor him because he spoke for the truth. Every call for justice is meaningful, but there is no greater call for justice greater than the call of Iman. Everyone wants to stand against injustice for animals, for the planet, for other things, and that's meritorious. But inna shirka la dhulmun azim. The greatest oppression is shirk. How do I stand against the injustice of shirk? Is what Bilal taught me. Now, there was a companion by the name of Zayd ibn Haritha. He was gifted to the Prophet ﷺ as a slave by Khadija radiyallahu anha upon her wedding with him. And he was a slave because he was captured or he got lost in the desert and he was taken away from, he lost his way from his father and uncle. For years, the father and uncle are searching for Zayd. They finally find Zayd ibn Haritha. His name is Zayd ibn Haritha, who was the adopted son of the Prophet ﷺ. And finally, when they find Zayd with the Prophet ﷺ, they say to the Prophet, our son is with you, can you send him back? The Prophet ﷺ says, look man, if you want to take him back, you can take him back. But I'm not going to force him to go back with you. But you don't have to pay me nothing. He's your son. They go to Zayd, says, Zayd, pack your bags, we're going home. Zayd says, مِثْلَ هَذَا لَا أَهْجُرُهُ أَبَدًا. Someone like this, I will never leave. I would choose to be shackled if it means to be with Muhammad ﷺ. I will choose bondage, not because I enjoy to suffer, but I enjoy being with the Prophet ﷺ. Sometimes the best option is the option of speaking up and knowing that I'm going to be losing out on opportunities of goodness, and that's okay. Because my voice means something to myself and my people. It's not just for me. وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. How do others benefit from what Allah has given me? There are some few narrations I'm going to highlight that speak about the value of who Bilal radiallahu anhu was, just so you can understand how much Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala honored him. Just before that, the Prophet ﷺ, one day he saw Bilal radiallahu anhu, and he says to Abu Bakr, Ya Abu Bakr, can you go free Bilal? And the nickname that Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was given before as-Siddiq, anyone, was what? Any thoughts? His nickname was Siddiq. But prior to that, what was his nickname? Any thoughts? So Shaykh Akram told me that people of Seattle, they got it down because you have so many seminars. So Bismillah, what was it? No ChatGPT. I see you, brother. I see you. You got your laptop open? No? It was Al-Atiq. Al-Atiq. Atiq comes from the word itq. Itq means to free someone, the neck, freeing the neck of someone. Itq, to freedom. He was called Al-Atiq because he freed so many slaves. Right? He says that I emptied my bank account in the path of Allah 3 times. The first time was when I freed all the Muslim slaves. The second time was when the Prophet went for hijrah. And the third time was for the battle in the expedition of Tabuk. So nonetheless, he goes to Umayyah ibn Khalaf and he says to Umayyah, I'm ready to buy this slave and take him out of your hands. Umayyah says, be my guest. I have no benefit with him because he's actually costing me money to persecute him. Like I have to actually hire people to continue persecuting him. It's better that you take him out of my hands. So he says, how much? He says, you know what? 7 uqiyah, which in today's time is about 12,000 USD. Right? Yeah, exactly. It's not, $5 maybe he bought Bilal. No. Look, man, the call for the truth forces us to do things that make us feel inconvenient and make us feel uncomfortable. It's not easy to see, it's not easy, man, to see an opportunity that will take my career to the next level and say that, you know what, I don't drink alcohol, I'm not drinking it. Kudos to those people, man. Kudos, man, that's a big deal. It's not easy living in America where we have so many opportunities of haram that will open up so many opportunities of wealth for us and we say no to. It's not easy. But that's the beauty of faith, that it allows us to still stand for something. Allah says, وَلَا تَكُونُوا كَالَّذِينَ نَسُوا اللَّهَ فَأَنْسَاهُمْ أَنفُسَهُم. He says, man, you know what? Today you assimilate in one way, tomorrow you let something else go, the third day something else. He says, a day will come where you won't even know yourself. وَلَا تَكُونُوا كَالَّذِينَ نَسُوا اللَّهَ. Do not become of those people who forget Allah, meaning they forget their primary frame of reference, and by doing so, Allah makes them forget themselves. That this person doesn't even know what they want to do with their own lives. Because forgetting Allah or remembering Allah is what allows a person to know everything else in their life. And forgetting Allah, the punishment of that is a person forgets who they are. So he says to Umayyah, I'll buy him for 12,000 USD. 12 uqiyah. Umayyah says, go ahead, take him. And after selling him, he says to Abu Bakr, man, I thought you were a smart person. Inni adunnu annaka, like I thought you were intelligent. You're a businessman. So what do you mean? He says, Wallahi, if you had haggled and bargained with me, I would have sold this person to you for 1 uqiyah, 1 dirham. 1. I would have sold him to you, no problem. But you never haggled me, so I gave, like you bought him for 12. Abu Bakr says, oh Umayyah, I thought you were smart. I thought you were intelligent. He said, if you haggled and bargained with me, I would have purchased him for 100 uqiyah. You missed out. You saw value and worth in what he had externally. I saw value and worth in what he had internally. I saw the value because he is not just a black slave in Mecca. He is a slave that has La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah in his heart. We are now equals. I saw value in him. And this is the value of faith, that we're all equals in every aspect of our life. There's no superior. You know what? We honor the story of Bilal and we love Bilal. But the reality is, we got to ask ourselves, do we love the Bilals of our community? Everyone loves Bilal. He was a celebrity. But do you love and do I love the Bilals of our communities? People who are left aside, that no one speaks to, no one looks at, no one listens to, no one invites to their invitations. Not just the African Americans, but any community any demographic in our community that is frowned upon. Do we honor the Bilals of our own communities? It's easy to look at Bilal and say, man, if Bilal was living here, I would love him. Well, guess what? We do have Bilals living here. We have Bilals in our communities that don't get the invites to our weddings, that don't get the invites to our gatherings, because they're just not. We feel uncomfortable. We feel uncomfortable. We would avoid saying salam to them in a shop because we don't want people to know that we're actually the same. We don't want them to know that we share the same faith. But we have Bilals in our communities as well. Do we value them the same way as Abu Bakr went and purchased him for $12,000? And Umar radiallahu anhu would say, Inna Bilal hasanatun min hasanati Abi Bakr. Powerful. He would say, Umar radiallahu anhu would say, that Bilal is one investment of good deeds from the entire portfolio of good deeds of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Imagine your return on investment being Bilal. That's your investment. That you purchased him, you freed him, everything he does you get the reward for. That he is a reward from the reward of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Then he would say, Abu Bakr Sayyiduna a'taqa Sayyidana. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, is our leader. He's our master who also freed our master. He's our master who also freed our master. Radiallahu anhuma. This is how he gets freed. And he doesn't stop there. He continues serving the Prophet ﷺ to the point that one day the Prophet ﷺ says in a beautiful narration, he says that before I move forward, what's interesting is a lot of times people who go through difficulties and struggles, they will use that struggle and that moment of difficulty as if that is enough for them to earn their Jannah. I struggled enough. No, that's not true. If that was a reality, why did Mus'ab die in the way that he passed away? Like Bilal didn't struggle in these few years in Mecca and after that say, you know what, I've done my part. Our struggles do not make us, they give us a head start. But we have to continue serving. Why was the Prophet so generous with his compliments and his virtues of the companions that you are already guaranteed Jannah in this world? Because he understood that this will not pacify their passion and motivation to serve, but rather it would increase it. Imagine the Prophet telling you and I, brother, you already made it to Jannah. Bro, we won't be here for Fajr tomorrow. Forget about it. Even your Imam won't be here. I wouldn't be here if I was your Imam. You already made it. Imagine the Prophet saying to the Sahaba, look, Uthman, you can do whatever you want after today, nothing will harm you. The Prophet saying to Mus'ab that you're the prince of Mecca, and yet him sacrificing everything he had for the Prophet my situation, Ibn al-Qayyim rahmatullahi alayhi says, a person's difficulty either takes them towards Allah or pulls them away from Allah. It can do either. A person's situation does not define them. Remember this. A person's situation does not define them. Their response defines them. What was their response like? Muslims and non-Muslims both go through difficulties. Many people have gone through difficulty, but their response was not the response that was accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When Allah takes a child from a parent, one narration that highlights this. When Allah takes a child from a parent and a child passes away, Allah says to the angels, أَقَبَثَّ ثَمَرَةَ فُؤَادَ عَبْدِي. Did you take the piece of the heart of the father and mother, the biggest portion of their heart away from them? Their child, their loved one, their precious child. Did you take it away from them? And the angels respond by saying, بَلَا كَمَا أَمَرْتَنَا يَا رَبْ. We did as you told us to do. We simply did what you told us. Then Allah says to the angels, مَاذَا قَالَ عَبْدِي. What did my slave say in response to this? It's not about losing the child. What did they say in response to that difficulty? What was their response like? Situations don't make a person. They give us a head start. Bilal was given a head start. And then he ran with it. He didn't sit back and say, I've spent my time and I've done my hours and no, what am I doing now? The moment he became a Muslim, the moment he was freed, he continued serving. There's no such thing as an internship in becoming a Muslim. The moment Allah allows us to enter, we serve, we commit. There's no phasing in period for us. And one day the Prophet, after waking up in the morning, he says, Ya Bilal, asbahtu al-bariha. Today I woke up in the morning, and one narration it says that this beautiful hadith took place after Mi'raj. But both are accepted. And it could be possible that it's happened twice. He says to Bilal, last night, I saw in my dream that I was walking through Jannah. And as I was being given a tour of Jannah, either in Mi'raj or in my dream, as I was taking my tour in Jannah, I heard سَمِعْتُ خَشْخَشَ. I heard footsteps. So I said to Jibreel, whose footsteps are these? Whose footsteps are these? And Jibreel alayhi salam says, إِنَّهَا خَشْخَشَةَ Bilal. These are the footsteps of Bilal. These are the footsteps of Bilal. The Prophet, as he's narrating this hadith, the Sahaba say he's crying. He's saying, Ya Bilal, bima sabaqtani ila al-jannah. Bima sabaqtani ila al-jannah. Oh Bilal, what is it that you do? What is it that you do that Allah allowed you to precede me in Jannah? Man, these were people who had no real estate in dunya. But they already had their palaces and their villas on their name in Jannah. They were focused. These were people whose voices were ignored in dunya, but their footsteps are being heard in Jannah. Man, those are people who we want to be like. Those are people who we aspire to be with. So, well, you have nothing, you're poor, you were a slave. But your palace in Jannah is being built for you. What is it that you do that you already there, man? You've already made it. He says, Ya Rasulullah, I don't know what I do. I don't know what I do. Great people don't know what they don't highlight every move of their life. Like, this is what made me great. No, you don't really know because it's so natural to you. He says, Ya Rasulullah, I don't know what it is, but if it's something that I can refer back to, it could be two things that I do. Number one, مَا أَذْنَبْتُ ذَنْبًا قَطُّ. He says, I've never committed a sin in my life, knowingly, except, everyone commits sins. Everyone has slip-ups. He says, except that after committing that sin, صَلَّيْتُ رَكَعَتَيْن. I pray 2 raka'ah. This is something practical for all of us. I want to be like Bilal, we can do this. We can do this. Every time I make a mistake, he says, I would pray 2 raka'ah and ask Allah to forgive me. So I have no sins on my body in my life. Number 2, وَمَا حَدَّثْتُ قَطُّ. I've never broken, this is so interesting. He said, I've never broken my wudu, except that after breaking my wudu, I would make a fresh wudu. Which means that I was always ready to pray. I was always in the state of purity. That you could never find me in a state of impurity. Man, the most difficult part about prayer is wudu. Right? Making wudu is so hard. It's like, I can pray, but I need to make wudu. Let me take that easy fatwa and do masah on these. I think that's why you guys have brick over here, right? Because you guys, Seattle guys love doing the left stuff, right? The easy opinions. So there's the bricks over here. Imam Akram, do you guys use bricks here for tayammum? You're not there yet? Okay, soon. Right? You guys have enough rain for ghusl for the whole country. Right? So he's like, I'm always in the state of wudu. I'd rather be in the state of wudu, man. I don't want to be in the state of impurity. So he says to the Prophet, Ya Rasulullah, the reason why perhaps you heard my footsteps is because of this. And I'll say one more story. One day, the elites of Mecca came. And this narration is mentioned by Amr ibn As, who was a part of those elites. Because at this point, he wasn't a Muslim. He said that there was 6 of us that went to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Abu Lahab was amongst them, Umayyah, and these leaders of Mecca. They come to the Prophet ﷺ and say, Ya Rasulullah, Ya Muhammad ﷺ, we are actually ready to accept Islam. Check this out. This is really, really interesting, right? And it also shows us and teaches us how Allah highlights and honors people. Not just the Prophet ﷺ, Allah highlights them. They say to the Prophet ﷺ, Ya Rasulullah, Ya Muhammad, we are ready to accept Islam. We only have one condition. Name it. Name it. What's your condition? Imagine these people becoming Muslim. The top tier of Mecca. Sometimes we say, man, I can't wish till this person becomes Muslim so Islam can grow. Allah doesn't need anyone's name or voice to grow Islam. Inna deena inda Allah al-Islam. Allah's deen is already complete. We don't need anyone to validate our religion. Why are we looking for people to speak on our behalf if they don't believe in what we believe in? How is our deen growing in value in my eyes and my heart through someone else's words? We don't need it. We have the words of the Prophet. We have the words of the Salaf. That's enough for us. We don't need validation. The Lambo doesn't need validation from the Camry. That's a good car. Yeah, we know it's a good car. That's why it's the Lambo. We know Islam is haqq. That's why the Prophet came with Islam. If it wasn't the truth, then he wouldn't have come with it. كَفَى بِهَا نِعْمَةً. That's enough of a validation for us. So they say, we're ready to accept one condition. And the condition is, utrud هَؤُلَاءِ النَّتِنَا. Get rid of all these low-class people. We don't have an issue with your theology. We have an issue with your social circle. Right? We don't have an issue with your theology. We have an issue with who you hang out with. We want to call you to our company meeting, but we have an issue with how you dress, your social circle. So if you leave your social circle, we can invite you. You're welcome to the party, but you got to let those guys go. Because those people, they don't sit well with us. They're too low class. We feel, check this out, we feel uncomfortable sitting with them. Friends, you should ask yourself, I should ask myself as well, do we ever feel uncomfortable standing next to someone in salat? And if we do, we got to check ourselves. Got to check ourselves. There's a reason why we pray anywhere in salat. There's no reserved seating in salat. There's no VIP seating in prayer. Like this is where the rich stand and pray. This is where the poor stand and pray. Everyone prays side by side. Do I feel uncomfortable sitting next to a Muslim on a dinner table, on a wedding? Yeah, no, maybe there's a preference. Maybe there's a preference because naturally we all have preferences. And preferences is not the same as a superiority complex. Two different things. One makes me arrogant. One perhaps makes me less talkative and less social. But I'm still okay with it. Sometimes you're praying and you feel uncomfortable standing next to someone because they don't look like you. That's an issue of faith. That's an issue of theology. That's not an issue of that's an issue of theology. They said to the Prophet, we believe in you. We believe in your theology. We have an issue with your social circle. You got to change your people who surround you. These people who are low class, like Bilal and Khabbab and Suhaib, you got to get rid of these guys. And then we'll become Muslim. And the Prophet ﷺ remained silent. He couldn't respond because he didn't have a response. And it wasn't because the Prophet ﷺ was ready to let them become a Muslim, but he was waiting for revelation. And Allah revealed a powerful verse in Surah Al-Kahf, where He said, وَلَا تَطْرُدِ الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ رَبَّهُم بِالْغَدَاةِ وَالْعَشِيِّ يُرِيدُونَ وَجْهَهُ. Beautiful verse. I'll just summarize it, where Allah says to him, don't you dare. Would it not have been useful to have Abu Jahl, Abu Sufyan become Muslim at that time? We would have made it. You sit back and say, let me compromise, so this person who hates Islam tomorrow can love Islam. And when they love Islam, they can benefit Islam. They will never benefit Islam. Because the ends do not justify the means. The amount that I compromise to get him in can never make him or her benefit us. But rather, bil'aks, they will harm us. Because we'll think that they're with us, but they're not with us. Nothing good can come from haram unless there's tawbah. Nothing good can come from anything that is, look, if you take, doesn't matter how clean your bowl is. If your taps are dirty, your water is going to be dirty. Doesn't matter how much you clean your bowl or your cup or your glass, but the pipes are dirty. The process is flawed. The Prophet was told, don't you dare get rid of these people who are low-class people. Just because you want their validation? Man, sometimes we do this with Muslims. Forget non-Muslims. We're standing next to a Muslim brother, and another Muslim brother or sister comes, and we turn away from this person because this man or woman has more honor in the community. The Prophet ﷺ met people equally, and he would never leave their hands until they would leave his hands. There's no more value to anyone. The Prophet was told, leave these guys, let them stay with you. Aisha radiallahu anha says, if there was a verse that the Prophet was allowed to hide, he would have hid this verse. Because of how heavy it was. As if the Prophet was ready to compromise, which he wasn't. But it was a heavy verse that don't you dare get rid of these people to have the elite of Mecca support you. These are all different narrations where the Prophet is honoring Bilal radiallahu anhu. I'll say one more story and we'll head to Medina inshallah with the story of Bilal. That in Mecca there was a boycott in Sha'b Abi Talib. The boycott that took place from year 7 to year 10. Even in this, Bilal's legacy is being built. His name is being mentioned. When the Prophet says, أُوذِيتُ فِي اللَّهِ مَا لَمْ يُؤْذَ أَحَدٍ وَأُخِفْتُ فِي اللَّهِ مَا لَمْ يَخَفْ أَحَدٍ. He says, I have been challenged in the cause of Allah more than anyone else. وَلَقَدْ أَتَتْ عَلَيَّ ثَلَاثُونَ يَوْمًا وَلَيْلًا. He says, when we were in the boycott, 30 days passed by. An entire month went by. 30 days. وَمَا لِي وَلِبِلَالٍ أَنْ آكُلُ شَيْئًا إِلَّا. And me and Bilal had nothing to eat except for that which Bilal would hide under his arm and sneak into the valley. In other words, we had nothing to eat for an entire month except for that which Bilal would hide in his pocket. and we would eat bits and pieces. And he would go sneak out, grab some food at night, bring it back, and him and I would eat it together. His journey continued. It wasn't just, I sacrifice, I'm good. He continued serving the Prophet ﷺ all the way to the end of his life. And now the journey of Hijrah begins. He goes to Madinatul Munawwara. And in the first year in Medina, as Salat was incorporated in a congregation and the masjid was built, the Prophet ﷺ asked the companions, how can we call people towards prayer? How can we invite people towards prayer? So someone said, let's use the bell. The Prophet said, no, we can't use a bell. That's what the Christians use. Someone said, let's use the horns. We can't use the horn because others use that. Someone said, let's use fire. They said, no, fire worshippers use it. So they couldn't get to a conclusion. The Prophet said, no problem. You all can go back and tomorrow we can reconvene and try to finalize what we can use as a source of calling people towards Salat. What you also take from this is our tradition is complete. For our tradition, we don't use other people's systems. We have our own way to incorporate the celebration of birth. Aqiqah, right? We have different things that we do. Similarly, we have our own janazah system. We have our own system to highlight every moment of our life. So there was no conclusion. They went back home. One of the companions comes the next morning. His name was Abdullah ibn Zayd. And what's interesting about this companion is that his name is hardly found in any other narration. Right? Like he was not a notable Sahaba, if we can say that. He doesn't have many ahadith. He doesn't have many stories. He doesn't have many expeditions. He comes running to the masjid. He says, Ya Rasulullah, last night I saw a dream where the angel taught me these words of the adhan. And the Prophet asked, can you repeat these words? Hadith in Bukhari. And he recites the entire adhan. As he finishes reciting the adhan, Umar radiallahu anhu also rushes in. He says, Ya Rasulullah, I saw a dream last night as well. And he also repeats the dream of the adhan. So the Prophet has two dreams that he can verify the adhan through. And he likes what he hears and he incorporates it as the call towards salat. When he hears the adhan, he says to Abdullah ibn Zayd, teach the adhan to Bilal. Teach the adhan to Bilal. So he teaches the words to Bilal. Not because Abdullah ibn Zayd was any less, or not because Bilal was more righteous or more virtuous. It was simply because of logistics, that Bilal radiallahu anhu had a louder and a more pleasant voice to call the adhan. And it's also an acceptance from Allah. Allah chooses people. Allah chooses people for different things. We have to be able to accept the idea and the fact that maybe I won't be used the way that my sibling is being used. I won't be able to serve Allah and His deen the way that my friend is serving Allah's deen. I won't be able to get the job that my cousin got. It's okay. نَحْنُ قَسَمْنَا بَيْنَهُمْ مَعِيشَتَهُمْ. Everyone's distribution was done by Allah. It wasn't done by anyone else. Ibn Ata'ullah says, one of the symptoms of jealousy, one of the causes of jealousy rather, is that this person is not content with the decree that Allah gave them. Because if they were content with the decree that Allah gave them, why would their eyes sway and wander towards the blessings of others? With such deep interest that they also want it and they want the other person to lose it. It's because they're not content with the decree of Allah. So he comes to Bilal, teaches Bilal the adhan, and Bilal radiallahu anhu, he stands up, and for the first time, the adhan is called towards prayer. And after he calls the adhan, the Prophet says, "Man qala mithla hada dakhala al-jannah." Whosoever calls the adhan like Bilal will also enter into Jannah. Man, that same voice that was muffled, that same voice that was subdued, that same voice that was pushed and drowned by the persecution of Mecca, Allah is honoring that voice to be the call towards salat. It's Allah's system. Every part of our journey is a part that Allah chose for us. That same Bilal's voice, man, he couldn't even speak in Mecca without getting whipped and lashed. And now Allah is saying that you call people towards salat. And the Prophet of Allah would say to Bilal, man, subhanAllah, the Prophet would say to Bilal, whenever he would ask Bilal to call the adhan, he would say, "Qum sayyidi arihna ya Bilal." He would say, stand, O leader. And arihna means bring comfort to our heart, O Bilal. Bring comfort to us. Arihna ya Bilal. Bring us comfort. That same voice that brought pain is now bringing relief to the heart of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is how Allah works. He has His own journey. Allah has a different journey for every single person that is sitting here. Your situation and what I'm going through today doesn't necessarily mean that Allah does not have a blessing in store for me. And if I do have a blessing in store right now, it doesn't mean that there's no struggle to come my way. So the Prophet ﷺ honors him with the adhan, and he gives him the title of the mu'adhin of the Prophet ﷺ. Now I'm going to pivot. This is where majority of the story of Bilal ends. That he was the mu'adhin, he sacrificed, he was a slave. What normally gets ignored is all of the other roles that Bilal played, radiyallahu anhu. In Medina, where we had a state, we had a government. It was a Muslim state. Do you know that Bilal radiyallahu anhu would be considered like the chief of staff for the Prophet ﷺ? The chief of staff, the executive assistant. That was literally his role. That nothing would come to the Prophet without Bilal checking it. And nothing would come from the Prophet without Bilal knowing of it. The people say that we thought Bilal was somehow from the family of the Prophet because of how much access he had. He was like the chief of staff. You know, I struggle saying this, but it's important to note it. Many people are comfortable making the Bilals of our community and trusting them with religious things. You know what? We'll give this person the adhan. Go ahead. It's okay. Go ahead. We'll let this person hold it in the donation box as people leave the masjid. We'll trust them with aspects of our life that we consider to be less significant. But would we let that same Bilal run our business if they had the merit, of course? Of course, merit cannot be challenged based on anything. Merit is merit. You have to know what you're doing. There's no handouts in our deen. Would we trust that same Bilal? And it doesn't have to be an African American or an Habashi. It can be a Pakistani, an Arab, an Egyptian, because the point of Bilal's story is not to focus on his color. It's to focus on how the Prophet ﷺ treated anyone that was seen to be less in his community. Anyone. And his story is just an example of it. Like, it's easy to take the Bilals of our community and use them for things of our religion as a token. But would we make the Bilals of our community the treasures of our masjids? Because Bilal was a treasurer of the Prophet's community. That he says to Amr ibn As, there was no finance that entered the Prophet's Baytul Mal except that he knew about it. Meaning he was his account, he was his treasurer. And there was no money that left the Prophet's house, Baytul Mal, except that he knew about it. All of his finances would go through Bilal. All of his executive decisions would go through Bilal. That was his role. It wasn't just like, yo, let me just throw you a bone and you are someone special and you should be happy because I gave you something. No. If I truly trust you and you have the merit for it, why would I only confine you to a corner to simply show the world that we're inclusive? Why not use you in a place that you can truly thrive in? As my executive assistant, as the chief of staff. And that's what the Prophet, and there are stories upon stories where people, like one day, the Prophet one day got upset with his spouses. And for 30 days, he stayed in a different room, in a different house, away from his families, because of an internal dispute and a domestic dispute within his family. So he goes to his own kind of like area where he's resting. Umar radiyallahu anhu's daughter is Hafsa, who's also married to the Prophet ﷺ. So he's kind of worried. Like, did the Prophet ﷺ divorce his wives, or is he upset? Which one is it? And he's struggling because his daughter is his daughter, but he also loves the Prophet more than anyone else. So he wants to find out what happened, but no one is allowed to speak to the Prophet. So Umar radiyallahu anhu says, you know what, I'm going to go speak to the Prophet ﷺ. And he walks towards the Prophet's room that he was residing in for this 1 month. And Bilal is the gatekeeper. Yo, the gatekeeper is Bilal. He's not just the mu'adhin, man. Check that out. He's not just the mu'adhin. He's the treasurer. He's the gatekeeper. Even Umar has to go through him. Principle over personality. Doesn't matter who you are. The Prophet assigned me. Umar says, can I meet the Prophet? Bilal says, no, you can't. The Prophet says, no one can come. Umar's like, no, I can, let me please come meet the Prophet. Bilal says, look, man, I asked the Prophet and no one can come. Umar says, please let me go meet the Prophet. And the Prophet starts hearing people's voices. He says, Bilal, what's going on outside? He says, Ya Rasulullah, Umar has come and he wants to meet you. But I told him no because you said no one can meet you. He said, you know what, let him come in. Let him come in. This is the story where Umar radiallahu anhu, he enters the Prophet's room and the Prophet sits up and he has marks all over his back. Because the mattress that he was laying on was made of straw mat. And it had all these marks. This is when he saw him, he started to cry. This is the hadith. And he said that, Ya Rasulullah, the kings of Persia and Rome, they have such beautiful, luxurious, soft blankets and covers. And we can't even provide for you a mattress to lay upon without leaving marks on your back. And this is what the Prophet says, Hatta al-an, ya Umar, you still have doubt? You still have doubt? This is for them in this dunya, وَلَنَا فِي الْآخِرَةِ. And we'll get it in the akhirah. Are you still in doubt about this? They had to go through him. There's a narration where the Prophet ﷺ one day, after leading Asr Salah, he kind of disappeared from the gathering. And as he left, Bilal came with him because Bilal is he's his chief of staff. He's the main person. And he goes with Abu Bakr, he goes with the Prophet ﷺ, and they enter into a garden. And Bilal knows, by the way, the Prophet wants his alone time. So as he enters into the garden, he tells Bilal, just wait here and don't let anyone come inside. Don't let anyone come in. So he just waits there. A few moments later, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu shows up. Because, where's my Prophet at? I got to know where he is. And he was the first person because he was the one who loved the Prophet the most. So he found him, where's the Prophet at? And he ends up reaching the garden. He says, Bilal, can I go in? He says, well, no, the Prophet said no one can go in. He said, can you ask him about me? Maybe he will let me in. So he goes, says, Ya Rasulullah, Abu Bakr is there. He's asking permission, can he come inside? The Prophet says, tell Abu Bakr that he can come inside, وَأَبْشِرْهُ بِالْجَنَّةِ, and give him the glad tidings of Jannah. Like it's just a normal day. Just another day at the office. Yeah, tell him come in. Like, go to meet your dad. Your dad's like, yeah, you can come. Here, take my checkbook too. Like, damn. I don't know, it was like that. Right? He said, tell him to come in. وَأَبْشِرْهُ بِالْجَنَّةِ. Let him know that Allah is also giving him the glad tidings of Jannah. Bismillah. Few moments later, who shows up? Umar. He shows up too, because he loves the Prophet. He says, he said, Bilal, tell the Prophet I'm here. Maybe I can come in too. He said, Abu Bakr is there and the Prophet is there. I better be there too. Because they were always together, all three of them, right? And that's how they're resting today. So he goes, Ya Rasulullah, Umar is here, can he come in? The Prophet says, yeah, let him come in. وَأَبْشِرْهُ بِالْجَنَّةِ. Tell him that he's also been guaranteed Jannah. Walks in. The Prophet is sitting there and he's raised his lower garment up to his knees and he has his feet or his legs dangling inside of the well, sitting on the ledge of the well. Abu Bakr comes, sits on his right side. Umar comes, sits on his left side. And they all do the same thing. Then a few moments later, Uthman comes, radiallahu anhu. The Prophet, he says, can you tell the Prophet I'm here? Maybe I can come in too. The Prophet says, yes, let him come in and also give him the glad tidings of Jannah upon difficulties that he would have to face. Tell him that he's also guaranteed Jannah, but he'll have to go through some challenges. As if it was a prophecy of what was to come for Uthman, radiallahu anhu, because he went through different struggles. And he comes in, and he sits in front of the Prophet ﷺ. And as he comes, the Prophet of Allah lowers his qamis, meaning he hides his legs from the haya of Uthman. The one day, Aisha radiallahu anha was sitting, and the Prophet ﷺ was sitting, and his legs were out, and you could see his shin. Abu Bakr walked in, the Prophet didn't move. Umar walked in, the Prophet didn't move. Uthman walks in, the Prophet ﷺ gets up, straightens his qamis, and he sits back down. Aisha says, Ya Rasulullah, my father walked in and you never flinched. Umar walked in, you never flinched. Uthman walked in and you kind of changed your whole posture. He says, oh my beloved wife, should I not have modesty and haya from the one who even the angels have haya of? Even the angels straighten up their posture when Uthman walks in. Right? So he was the Prophet's, he was the Prophet's executive assistant. And he had access. Like anyone that would come to ask would ask Bilal first. There's a story where one day the wife of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, her name was Zainab. she wanted to ask the Prophet ﷺ that, can I give my zakat to my husband? So a husband cannot give his zakat to his wife because that technically falls under your responsibility. But can the wife give zakat to the husband? Changes things now, right? It's okay to be poor if your wife doesn't give you zakat, right? Absolutely not. But so she's coming and she's very wealthy. And her husband, he's a student of the Prophet ﷺ. Doesn't have much wealth. But he's shy to ask. So she says, she comes, and Bilal again is the gatekeeper. So Bilal, can you ask the Prophet that if I can give my zakat to my husband, but don't tell him my name? Out of respect for her husband. Out of respect for her husband. Not like, you know how it would be in today's time? Yo, ask the Prophet, can I give my broke husband some money? You know what I'm saying? Like, this guy is a couch potato. Just tell him it's me because I got some money too. Let him know that I'm an independent person earning money. We're like, no, that's not how she asked. She just said, yo, just I respect my husband too much to make him look like he's in need. It's okay. And vice versa. So he goes in and says, Ya Rasulullah, there's someone outside asking this question about giving zakat to their husband. First thing the Prophet asks, who's asking? Who's asking? Bilal didn't say, oh, I can't tell you because, no, the Prophet is asking who's asking. I better speak up. Sometimes your parents ask you, who said it? Like, no, I can't tell you. What do you mean you can't tell me, man? I'm your dad, I'm your mom, you better tell me. There's no secrets at home with your parents, right? Yeah, one of these, everything will open up. He says, who asked the question? He says, Zainab. Bilal was very slick with it. He was very slick with it. It's like someone saying, who told you? And you say, Abdullah. Like, well, there's a lot of Abdullahs out here. Right? You know what I'm talking about? Like if someone says, yo, who told you? Muhammad. Well, which one? So the Prophet says, who said it? Who asked this question? He says, Zainab. The Prophet says, hey man, stop playing games. Which Zainab? Which Zainab? And he said, oh, Zainab, the wife of Ibn Mas'ud. Again, always there. Whenever there were guests that would come to the Prophet ﷺ, Bilal was the one who would welcome them inside the house. He was the one who would serve them. He was the one who would ask for their requests. And he was the one who had access to the Prophet. The beautiful narration where Bilal radiallahu anhu says, man, the Prophet, I came to him one morning. The sunnah of Bilal was that whenever it was a time of Fajr, he would come to the Prophet's room and just tell him that it's time for prayer, and then he would go call the adhan. And the Prophet would respond to him. This was a sunnah. He says, one day, I come to the Prophet and it was, I see him, this is the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha, that he was praying all night and his feet are swollen. In one narration it says that his beard was filled with tears. And Bilal says, Ya Rasulullah, what is all of this for? Has Allah not forgiven you? Has Allah not forgiven you? And the narration mentions that Aisha says it. In one narration it says that Bilal said this. And the Prophet responded by saying, أَفَلَا أَكُونَ عَبْدًا شُكُورًا, shall I not be a grateful servant to Allah? This type of access was given to Bilal radiallahu anhu. He was also the treasurer. What do I mean by the treasurer? That whenever they had to collect funds, Bilal will collect the funds. Whenever someone needed money from Baytul Mal, Bilal would write. Imagine the person who writes the check being the Bilal of the community. He would write the checks, not just receive the checks. He would write the checks for the community. You want something? I got you. I can sign without the Prophet even telling me. That's the access that the Prophet ﷺ gave him. And these are just a few narrations that highlight Bilal being, we're not trying to say that being a mu'adhin is a lowly concept. No, but what we do want to highlight is that the Prophet didn't just give him a token position. He honored him with everything that he had the capacity to fulfill. And he had the merit to fulfill it, right? And this is the journey of Bilal radiallahu anhu until the point. Just one more story, and as we wrap up the second part. So we had Mecca, we have Medina, then we have the last part, which is after Medina. The Prophet ﷺ highlights the humility of Bilal. Imagine being the Bilal of the community. You're the mu'adhin, you're top dog. Gatekeeper, treasurer, executive assistant. One day him and Abu Dharr radiallahu anhu get into an argument. And Abu Dharr says a very nasty slur to him. And he calls him through a race. He uses a racist slur against him. People have weak moments. Those weak moments shouldn't be a reason for you to take them to town. Should be a reason for you to forgive them. We're not looking for people to slip up, man. We're looking for people to slip up to give them chances. We're not standing there waiting for the needle to drop so that we can attack the person. That's a venomous feeling and that's a venomous quality. And you will always find someone to attack in that situation then. So he says something, and Bilal, like, he feels offended. And he goes directly to the Prophet, Ya Rasulullah, Abu Dhar, who was a great companion, said this to me. The Prophet calls Abu Dhar, and he says to him, Inna fika amrun jahiliyyah. Oh Abu Dhar, what you just said was a sign that jahiliyyah still lives within you. And that's a very heavy thing to tell a Sahaba who gave up everything to become a Muslim. But that statement of calling him by that slur and pretty much using the slur to highlight his mother, calling his mother a slave. That what you just said right now was jahiliyyah within you. And he scolded him. Abu Dharr radiallahu anhu felt so humiliated and humbled that he went to Bilal and said, Oh Bilal, I will not get up from the floor until you put your foot on my face. So he laid on the floor and he said, I won't get up until you put your foot here. I mean, this is true remorse, right? Not like, yo, man, can you forgive me? Yeah, thank you, I appreciate it, brother. No, what are you talking about, man? Yo, at least I said sorry. Yeah, it would have been better if you didn't screw up. Like, at least I said sorry. Yo, saying sorry doesn't make you a virtuous person. It makes you normal. Because if you mess up, you should say sorry. But it would have been better if I didn't mess up. Right? It's not like, yo, a token, yo, alhamdulillah, I said sorry. No. Alhamdulillah, I said sorry is not real. Like, yo, I shouldn't have messed up. And if I did, let me be genuine in my apology. Not just like, yo, you forgive me, cool, let's move on. He said, I know you forgive me, but I won't get up until you put your foot on my face. He said, Wallahi. He said, Wallahi. Bilal said, you know what, you're going to fast 3 days because I'm not doing it. I'm not putting my foot on your face. It's not going to happen. Get up. There were brothers, man. There's a story about Abdurrahman ibn Auf, radiyallahu anhu, that Bilal radiyallahu anhu, one day he said to Abdurrahman, I'm interested in so-and-so person to get married. Like, so can you scout that person out for me? Right? Like, so he's my bio data. He didn't say that, obviously. Right? But like, this person over there, this daughter of this person, can you kind of like be my guy? And he chose the right person, right? Like, if Abdurrahman ibn Auf is going on your behalf to ask for your daughter's hand, you're not going to ask about finances. Right? Like, Abdurrahman ibn Auf, the dude literally owns Medina. So he says, you know, I got you. He goes to the family's house, and he says, you know, Bilal wanted to request your daughter for him and for marriage. What do you think about it? The father, like, you know, and by the way, this was not a negative thing. The father did not see this to be a good fit. And I'm going to say this too. Bro, not every time someone says no to marriage is because of racism. It's also because of just people being able to understand each other. Sometimes we get really like heavy about this, yo, our parents are so racist. No, they're not. I mean, some of them are. Don't get me wrong. But there is a level of just being able to be compatible with each other. It's not always racism. It's just being compatible. And it's possible that these two cultures are not compatible. It's possible that they're not. And it's okay to accept that. You can have preferences for your daughter and son. And you shouldn't be afraid of having a gun of racism on your head. If I don't choose so-and-so person for my daughter or son, it's okay. We can't use a card of racism for every moment that we struggle in. We have to also be able to just be, we have to be able to take that moment as a learning moment. It's okay. The deen doesn't give us handouts, man. We work our way up. So Bilal, so he says to Abdul Rahman, he says, you know what? I don't know about like Bilal, but you seem like a good fit for my daughter. This is a real story. Check this out. It's like, I don't know about Bilal, but you seem like a good fit for my daughter. Well, how about that? This guy was looking at Abdul Rahman's bank account. Like, you might be a good fit. Like, well, I mean, if you say so, maybe I am. And they get married. Now imagine, brothers, imagine if this happens to you. Bro, ain't no apology enough except for the shovel of the grave. Like, bro, how dare you? You went as my ambassador and took the person I wanted to marry? Abdurrahman's like, yo, man, if you say, like, he said no to, by the way, he had already said no to Bilal. And then he said, how about you? Abdurrahman's like, yo, I mean, might as well. I mean, I'm ready. I ain't got no financial issues. Gets married, and he forgets to tell Bilal. Check this out. Life moves on. One day, Bilal goes to Abdurrahman. He's like, yo, man, whatever happened to that person that I asked you to propose on my behalf? Like, yo, what happened, yo? You know people like, you text you like, yo, what happened, man? But bro, I haven't even met the father yet. Chill. Yo, what happened? What happened? He's like, oh. What didn't happen? He's like, what happened? And guess what? He tells him that they said no. It's like, oh, so cool, but they said yes, they wanted me to marry the daughter. So Bilal is sitting down. Abdurrahman is standing. The hadith says, قَعَدَ ثُمَّ قَامَ. He stood up. He came, and this is probably one of the most heaviest narrations for me to narrate. He stands up. He comes to Abdurrahman. He kisses him on the forehead. And he says, brother, forgive me for trying to take that which Allah wrote for you. Right? He says, forgive me for trying to take that which Allah wrote for you. Man, this is different. You can't want to say that we want to be like Bilal and not have this type of compassion for your brothers. This positive assumption. You know what, Bilal, there's no way Abdurrahman went against my back. I shouldn't even have tried. Allah had already wrote this person for you. That's not me, man. Don't feel bad about it. That's why the Prophet says, Abdullah al-Mas'ud says, the Sahaba were people, أَبَرَّهَا قُلُوب, man. They had the cleanest of hearts for each other. Why is it so easy for friends to be swayed against each other? We got clean hearts for each other. Why is it easy? Why is it easy for even siblings? For those of you who have siblings, why is it easy for siblings to be pinned against each other? How can someone from the outside come in between me and my brothers or sisters? How is that possible? I know that my brother loves me. I know my sister loves me. Whatever you say, I take it with a grain of salt. It doesn't count. Whatever you say cannot make me feel pinned against my siblings for you and I. Because there's no way they would want to harm me. That's how they saw each other. There's no way you would harm me intentionally, Abdurrahman, because you love me. أَبَرَّهَا قُلُوب. It's not like he was the mu'adhin and called it a day. These were qualities that built him. He wasn't given the flag of being the mu'adhin because he had a loud voice. He was given the flag of being the mu'adhin because this was what his heart was like. His heart was clean for people. We can't assume to want to be like the Bilal, but our hearts are always venomous towards our brothers and sisters. We're looking for opportunities for them to fail. Man, there is, Imam Suyuti rahmatullahi comments, he says, there is no hasad that is more venomous and worse than the hasad of a person who feels happy at someone's loss. And we got to ask ourselves genuinely, man. Genuinely. And man arafa nafsahu arafa rabbah. Whoever recognizes their own flaws has recognized Allah, because us being flawed is a sign that we know how perfect Allah is. That's how we know Allah. We have to ask, why do I feel happy when if your brother, sister, not blood brothers, like if your Muslim brother or sister is applying for the same job you're applying for, or the same program that I'm applying for, and they get accepted and I don't, I know it hurts. That's natural for it to hurt. But I have to be able to fight that and congratulate the person, not just so that they feel congratulated, but to really feel happy for the person. Say, man, that's what Allah got for you. It's not for me. If it was for me, wallahi, no one could have taken it away from me. ما أصابك لم يكن ليخطئك وما أخطأك لم يكن ليصيبك. Ali radiallahu anhu would say, what's coming your way, there's nothing that can change the direction that Allah has set for you. The course of it is set. We're applying for the same job, but we're not competing as if this is our entire relationship. If you get it, you get it. If I get it, I get it. Why are we hiding it? Why is it so that everyone else finds out before my friends? You know, everyone else finds out that I got into med school before my friends do. Why? Because, oh, they're not going to be, why aren't they going to be happy for you? Why not? Oh, because they want it too. It's okay if they want it. We all want similar things. Our DNA is not much different. Every human wants money. Every human wants family. Every human wants comfort. Everyone wants it. But if someone else got it before me, that's because Allah gave it to them. Ibn Qayyim rahmatullahi alayhi says, one of the greatest antidotes to jealousy is to know that this person didn't earn it because of who they are. They earned it because of Allah giving it to them. Like, so he got it because Allah gave it to her. It's not because they earned it, it's Allah gave it to us. And it removes the feeling of the heart that, man, I gotta get it too. No, now you turn to the one who gave it to them, who is Allah. بِيَدِكَ الْخَيْرِ. Goodness is only in the hands of Allah. No one else. نَحْنُ قَسَمْنَا بَيْنَهُمْ. Allah says, we distribute. We distribute the decree of blessings. No one else does. Right? And this is a few examples of who Bilal was as a personality. Soft, humble, caring, loving. He was the life of the party of Medina. Everyone loved Bilal. But we move forward, and this is the last part of the class that we will wrap up with, which is the third stage. The third stage is also a very powerful stage, where the Prophet ﷺ now, after all these years of persecution, has been given the honor of the conquest of Mecca. And now the Sahaba are gathering in the 8th year of Hijrah to go back to Mecca Mukarramah, to conquer the land and to take the land back that they used to live in. After all these years, and the story is a very beautiful story where the Prophet forgave everyone. So, اليوم يوم المرحمة. He said, everyone is أنتم الطلقاء, you are all forgiven. That's a story for another day. But the Prophet ﷺ enters into Mecca, and only a few people are allowed to enter the Kaaba. The Prophet, Abu Bakr, they say that the Prophet, Abu Bakr, Ali, and Bilal. And some narrations will differ. But Bilal, in every narration, Bilal is in the Kaaba. And he's helping the Prophet clean the Kaaba. The narration of the Prophet taking the idols with his staff and hitting the idols and saying, جاء الحق وزهق الباطل. Bilal was there. He's his executive assistant, chief of staff. And then after all of this is done, the Prophet ﷺ says to Bilal, قُمْ يَا بِلَال وَاسْعُدْ. He says, oh Bilal, climb the Kaaba. فَلَمْ يَزِلْ حَتَّى أَنَّ بِلَال. He says that Bilal continued climbing the Kaaba until he reached the top of the Kaaba. Now can you imagine all of those people who saw Bilal to be the low class, the scum of the community, the persecuted one, the one that no one listened to, and now they're standing there and upon the most honorable spot in Mecca, the Kaaba that they also so dearly loved. They see this black slave towering above them. And he's standing there, and Umayyah ibn Khalaf, his son Safwan, I want to inform you of what their mentality was at this moment. Where Safwan, the son of Umayyah, his master, he says, Alhamdulillah, my dad died before this day. Because if my father saw this day, he would have died out of pain. Because their ego was so much. They couldn't handle, Abu Jahl, when he got killed in Badr, this is like a real narcissist person, right? When he was getting killed in Badr, and Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud was a skinny guy. He wasn't like a big fighter. And he was the one that was about to finish him off. He looked at him and says, who are you? He says, I'm Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. He said, man, could someone that is greater than you not kill me? So at least I could say that it's like big dog killed me. Now when you play one-on-one against someone who's not that good at basketball, man, I hope he doesn't beat me. If someone good beats me, it's all good because at least they're good. Right? And then he says to Abdullah that when you cut my neck, cut it from lower. Don't cut it from high. Cut it from here. So when they put my head on your spear, it looks like I have a big neck. These guys are crazy, man. Right? This is what he says, if my father was alive today, he would have died out of grief. The son of Ikramah says, thank God my dad is not alive today. Because if he saw this, he would be paralyzed. And Bilal towers above them, and as he climbs the Kaaba, the Prophet says to him, Ya Bilal, adhin, call the adhan. Now, you and I, in this moment, perhaps cannot understand the feeling of triumph mixed with the emotions of remembering how that land was your home, but it was also your prison. It was your home, but it was also your dungeon. It was your home, but it brought you so much pain. Standing there, imagine, when we see these Muslims in Gaza who were hostages for years, being freed after 10, 15, 20 years, standing back in those same spots. That's heavy. You see them meeting their parents, those videos of that husband meeting his wife after 20 years who waited for him, or the mother being met after 20 years, the son not knowing whether or not his mother was alive. Like you're standing there like, man, I went through all of this. And this is the moment that, this is what Allah gave me. Right? This is the promise of Allah, inna ma'al usri yusra. That every difficult moment will be touched by a moment of ease. But dear friends, let's not have a euphoric understanding of what ease is. Yes, he was given the adhan on top of the Kaaba, but after 20 years of struggle. Yes, in those 20 years there were moments of doubting themselves. In وَظَنُّوا وَتَظُنُّونَ بِاللَّهِ الظُّنُونَ. There were moments of not struggling with what was coming their way. إِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا doesn't mean that with every difficulty will have to come an ease. If that was the truth, then why would the Prophet have to wait 21 years? It's not that every difficulty comes with an ease. Because the reality is some people's ease will not even be felt by them in dunya. How are you going to tell a father or a mother who buried their kids, all their kids in Gaza, that there's ease to come? What ease? What ease? Imam Ghazali says, Al-usr kulluha fi dunya, wal-yusr kulluha fi al-akhirah. He says every aspect of this dunya is difficulty. And that's not to be self-deprecating or overwhelming, but the reality is even moments of ease in dunya are met with some difficulty. What do I mean by that? Sometimes you finally get what you want, and you're like, man, I wish my father was with me today. Perfection is not perfection of ish, of pure comfort. It wasn't made for dunya, man. Right? This is why a man came to Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal and he said, Mata raha ya Imam? When will I finally be able to experience comfort? And he looked down and he said, بِأَوَّلِ قَدَمٍ فِي الْجَنَّةِ. With the first footsteps that we take into Jannah. That's raha. Right? The rest is a test for us, and the moments of ease are simply met with gratitude. Right? There's no ease, and the ease is akhirah now for this person. There are Muslims who have been in prison for so many years that they will perhaps die in prison. Their ease is akhirah. Sometimes when I have an incorrect understanding of a religious concept, it makes us feel like Allah doesn't love us enough. Because if I actually believe that yes, I must be met by an ease after every difficulty, and if I don't get it, I'm going to question my faith with Allah. That why didn't I get ease if you told me that there's ease after difficulty? Because ease after difficulty is an open window. It's relative. It could mean that it's coming in dunya, it could mean that it's coming in akhirah. Man, I have a friend, a classmate in Toronto. He has 4 kids and they're all born with some deficiency. They can't speak, they're deaf and dumb. 4 kids. And you see this person, Allah has blessed him with contentment. You tell this person that there's ease in dunya, say, you know what? I'm all right, man. You don't have to convince me there's ease in dunya. Because if there's ease in dunya, I don't want it. I want ease in akhirah. If this is what ease looks like, I'm okay. I want ease in akhirah. It's all good. Right? So yes, after all these years, Bilal is given this honor. وَلَسَوْفَ يُعْطِيكَ رَبُّكَ فَتَرَى. Allah will give it to us. By the way, if we really want it, Allah will give it to us. If we really want it, Allah will give it to you. Ud'u Allah wa antum muqinun bil ijaba. Allah will give it to us. That's a promise of Allah. And he's standing on top of the Kaaba, towering above the oppressors. And this promise will come true in every Muslim land. It's a matter of time. It's not a matter of whether it's happening. And he stands there, and that same black slave who had not the power to say ahad, except that he was lashed for it. As a symbolic gesture, Allah showed us that he stands in the Kaaba and he's calling the adhan out loud for the entirety of Mecca to hear, and they can't do a thing about it. Power comes from Allah. Might comes from Allah, not from compromise. He was only allowed to call the adhan from the top of the Kaaba with his voice towering above all the enemies of Allah, because once upon a time he whispered it when no one wanted to hear it. It's easy to speak for the truth when it's cool. It's easy, man. Anyone can take a photo with the Palestinian flag and recognize their pain. We don't want recognition, we want support. Recognition is cheap. I can recognize that someone is struggling, so what can I do? So what? People say, I recognize that you're struggling, so I don't want your recognition. I want, what can you do about it? Recognition is cheap, man. Recognition is not virtuous. It's an avenue of virtue. Because the Jews of Medina recognized the Prophet. يَعْرِفُونَهُ كَمَا يَعْرِفُونَ أَبْنَاءَهُم. They recognized the Prophet. So what though? Shaitan recognized Allah. So what? Like someone saying, I recognize that this is my sin. So what am I doing about it? Recognition can lead towards change, but it can also lead towards arrogance. When we double down upon it. Allahu Akbar were his words that Allah honored him with, because once upon a time when it wasn't cool, he was also doing it. Ahad. Ahad. No one's doing it, I'm doing it. Allah will give me the honor of one day where everyone will have to be succumbed to the nature of what Allah gave me. It's the nature of Allah. You were doing ahad over here, now do ahad. Once upon a time, our parents and your parents made dua in the middle of the night, and because of that, today we have what we have. It's not because of what we're doing, it's because of what they used to do that no one saw. The engine no one sees, but everyone hears the car moving. No one sees the engine, everyone sees the car. No one sees, my father would give us the example that his teacher would say. He would say that, a kid, if you ask him how the water turns on in the house, the kid's gonna say that you turn the tap on and the water comes. Yes? You turn the tap on and the water comes. He would say that a child won't understand that's not the tap that brings the water. It's an entire system of pipes behind that allow for the water to come by the tap turning on. Tomorrow, one of those pipes are disconnected. You can keep the tap on as much as you want, no water will come. And he would use this example to teach us, similarly, you can have the tap in your life. That now this is what everyone wants to do. But if your pipe is disconnected, meaning if I am disconnected with the source of water, i.e. Allah, then the tap can't do nothing for me. Tap can't do nothing. The Prophet told Ibn Abbas, وَلَوْ اجْتَمَعَ النَّاسِ عَلَىٰ أَن يَضُرُّوكَ بِشَيْءٍ لَمْ يَضُرُّوكَ إِلَّا بِمَا قَدْ كَتَبَهُ اللَّهُ لَكَ. If the entirety of humanity was to come to harm an individual, they couldn't harm us. If it wasn't decreed by Allah, the tap is what you see. Yeah, Bilal is calling the adhan, it's such a cool thing. But no, we didn't see that he was persecuted for years by saying ahad. Yes, today this person, Allah has given them wealth, but how much du'as, struggle did their parents make to come to the States and to live on less money for us to have what we have? And now today Allah gave you what He gave you and gave me what He gave me. That's His ahad that allowed him to give Allahu Akbar's adhan. It wasn't a handout, it was symbolic. You said it when nobody wanted to hear it, now you will say it and no one has a choice but to listen to you. It's Allah's promise. And the entirety of Mecca heard, and this was Allah's way of saying, that we don't care about the color of your skin. We don't care about the merit that you possessed before you became a Muslim. Islam is the ultimate equalizer. Islam is the ultimate equalizer. That everyone is the same when they have Allah in their life. And the merit between us is built upon our taqwa. إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ, which is a qualifying factor that no one can define in this world anyways. It's not something that we can use in this world because we can't tell. It's for akhirah. Right? And this is the Prophet ﷺ asking him to call the adhan in Fath Makkah. Few years later, a year and a half later, the Prophet ﷺ's time of living in this world is coming to an end. And as he's living his last few days, a few narrations take place with Bilal. You have to realize that Bilal, like his shield was the Prophet ﷺ. Like he was his partner for his entire life. So the Prophet ﷺ leaving this world, as difficult as it was upon every companion, it was unique to Bilal because of their relationship. So one narration mentions that the Prophet ﷺ is in his last few days and Bilal looks upon the Prophet ﷺ and he says, Ya Rasulullah, what is this pain? Every time you pain, I feel pain too. The Prophet ﷺ says, I think my time is coming near. Bilal says, Ya Rasulullah, what do you mean your time? He says, the Prophet ﷺ says that Jibreel alayhi salam came down and he gave me this option of going to Allah or staying here. And Bilal says, Ya Rasulullah, one of the companions rather, he asks, Ya Rasulullah, if you're leaving this world, then how should we pray janazah upon you? How should we wash you? Imagine having to ask your father or mother, right, at an elderly age, may Allah give our parents long, healthy lives, and turning to your father and saying, oh Father, how do we pray janazah upon you? How do we wash your body, oh mother? Man, just saying that is heavy. The Sahaba loved the Prophet more than we can ever love our parents. A man came to Hudhayfa ibn Yaman, and one narration, Miqdad ibn Aswad, a tabi'i, the second generation. And he's saying to Hudhayfa or Miqdad, طُوبَى لِهَاتَيْنِ الْعَيْنَيْنِ اللَّتَيْنِ رَأَتَ النَّبِيَّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم. He says, man, glad tidings to these eyes that saw the Prophet of Allah. Glad tidings to your hands that touched the Prophet's hands. And he's being poetic about it. And he says, Wallahi, if we were alive at the time, if I was alive at the time of the Prophet, he would not be able to walk on the earth because I would carry the Prophet. You know, some people talk big game. If I was there, I swear to God, man. I swear, but you could have been there. You chose not to. Yeah, if I was there, it would be on sight. Yeah, on sight, you would run away. Hey, if I was there, and he's just excited, he's pumped up. And Miqdad says, it is not okay for a person to wish to live in a time that Allah did not raise them in. And then he says to him, Wallahi, I don't know if you were alive, whether or not you would be on the side of the Prophet or on the side of the mushrikun. Because it wasn't easy to stand in Badr and have your father looking at you. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy to have your brother on the opposite side. Man, the Arabs loved their families. They would literally kill for their families. You know, a lot of times you read the stories of Sahaba, you're like, yo, maybe they didn't love their family, that's why they were like that. No, there was no nation that loved their families more than the Arabs. Like all of their fights and wars were because of one family issue. That's it. That's it. That's all it was. That was their cause of battle. They loved their families, but they just loved the Prophet more. So when they asked the Prophet, who was going to pray janazah, Bilal left the room. The Prophet called Bilal back. He says, Ya Bilal, mur Aba Bakr bis salat fal yusalli bin nas fa'adhin. So, oh Bilal, tell Abu Bakr to lead prayer and call the adhan. He says, Ya Rasulullah, I can't tell Abu Bakr, you're going to come and lead. He says, no, mur Aba Bakr. And fa'adhin, and call the adhan. Bilal radiallahu anhu, his norm is that whenever he would go to call the adhan, when he would get to Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whenever he would get to this part of the adhan, the Prophet ﷺ would walk out from his house, which was on his left, and he would walk out this way. And whenever he would say it, they would have a subtle eye contact, and the Prophet would smile at him, and he would smile back. So he's saying, he's starting to call the adhan, And he gets to Ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah and he passes out. He falls. They get him back up. They say, no, call the adhan. Call the adhan. He starts again. Again, فَاخْتَنَقَ بِالْبُكَاء, just choking on his tears. The third time they had Abdullah ibn Maktoum, who was the blind Sahaba, who was the second mu'adhin to call the adhan. And he comes back to the Prophet and says, Ya Rasulullah. He says, Ya Rasulullah. When he comes back after this situation, he says, Wa Khalila, Wa Habiba, Wa Rasula. He says, oh my friend, you're leaving me? Oh my beloved, you're leaving me? Oh my Prophet, you're going to leave me? And the Prophet ﷺ remained silent. And after the Prophet ﷺ passed away and he transitioned from this world, Abu Bakr came to Bilal and said, Bilal, can you call the adhan? Bilal said, Ya Abu Bakr, I will not be able to call the adhan anymore in Medina. I just can't. So please call the adhan for us. I can't. They get him to call the adhan and he again passes out, Ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. He can't do it. And then he goes to Abu Bakr and says, Abu Bakr, please let me leave. Sometimes living in the city of your beloved after they pass away is the biggest trauma. It's the biggest test. Right? Sometimes walking down the same street is your biggest challenge. Sometimes living in that same home is your biggest challenge. How do you live in that house when your loved one lived there before? We're 5 brothers. My youngest brother, rahmatullahi alayhi, was 22 years old and he passed away in a car crash 4 years ago. 22 years old. The youngest of us 5. Man, it's not easy living in that same house. And I can only imagine how difficult it is for the parents to see the bed that he slept on, see the closet that he would walk into to wear his clothes. It's not easy. And this love is less. The love of Bilal for the Prophet was much more. He says, Abu Bakr, he says, every time I walk through a street of Medina, I remember walking with the Prophet. Every time I walk into the masjid, I remember seeing the Prophet. I can't stay here. Abu Bakr says, no, you have to stay. He says, Ya Abu Bakr, لو أعتقتني لرقبتك. If you freed me because you own me, then I'll stay. But if you freed me for the sake of Allah, فَخَلِّي سَبِيلي. But if you freed me for Allah, let me go. If you freed me because you own me, I'll stay because you own me. Because you bought me, right? You own me. I'll stay because you own me. But if you freed, لو أعتقتني لسبيل الله. But if you freed me for the cause of Allah, فَخَلِّي سَبِيلي. Let me go. Abu Bakr said, I freed you for the sake of Allah, you can go. He said, why could Bilal not live in Medina? Because every sight of the Prophet ﷺ would be overwhelming for him. So he went to Sham. A few years later, the Sahaba conquered Baytul Maqdis. I have two more hadith and we'll wrap it up. The Sahabas conquered Baytul Maqdis. Umar radiyallahu anhu comes to the famous story that he's given the keys of Quds without a fight. And as he comes to Baytul Maqdis, as he's coming to Baytul Maqdis, he sends one of his messengers and he says, call Bilal from Sham. I want him to be there too. I want him to be there. So Bilal is summoned from Sham and he comes to Palestine as well. And Ibn Asakir mentions, he says, when the Sahaba were given the keys of Baytul Maqdis, Umar radiyallahu anhu had done something very special. Any notable companion that was alive at that moment, he invited them all there. It was like a reunion. And what you get from that as well is something really powerful. From the moment the Prophet ﷺ passed away and left this world, these companions were set on a mission. The mission is bigger than the person. Service is not relied upon individuals, it relied upon the cause. We serve because of Allah. We don't serve because of anything else. من كان يعبد محمد فإنه قد مات. ومن كان يعبد الله فإنه حي لا يموت. So he gathers all the notable companions, whoever was alive, they came to Baytul Maqdis because it was a big moment. And they hadn't seen each other for years. But they loved each other. He gathers them all. The story is, of course, that Allah gave them Baytul Maqdis, And as they enter upon Baytul Maqdis, he says, Bilal, Bismillah. Adhin lana ya Bilal. Arihna ya Bilal. Call the adhan for us. Bilal's like, yo, I told you, man. I can't do it. I can't. He said, Bilal, call the adhan for us. I said, I can't. The Prophet isn't here. And Umar radiallahu anhu, he pleads with him. He says, Ya Bilal, innahu la yufrihu Rasulullah. The statement of the hadith says that Umar said to him, Oh Bilal, if you call the adhan, it will make the Prophet happy. It will make the Prophet happy. And you will have the honor to call the adhan in all three major, notable masjids that Allah and the Prophet honored us with. The Prophet will be happy. The narration mentions, it's like, it's almost like when someone goes to a certain location, like a wedding, a reunion, and there's one person missing. And that one person missing is who? The Prophet ﷺ. Everyone else is there. And as that one person is missing, his name is mentioned in front of you. Man, if your eyes don't tear at that, then not sure what it will tear at. That loved one isn't with you, and at the wedding someone mentions his name, forget about it. Imagine standing there, everyone is there. And Bilal radiallahu anhu's voice, remember, it's synonymous to the comfort and relief of the Prophet ﷺ. That the Prophet would ask him to call the adhan, not because of salat itself, but because his voice would bring him comfort. And now that voice that hasn't been heard for all these years, he climbs the hilltop of where the Masjid al-Aqsa is today, where it was trash. He climbs it. In some narrations, he climbs the hilltop where Masjid al-Umar is today, in Baytul Maqdis. May Allah take us back there again and again and free the land of Quds for the believers to be the conquerors of it once again. Rightfully so, that it is our land that Allah gave us. He climbs and says, Allahu Akbar, Allahu. Abu Ubaidah says, who was the general of the army, that in that moment there was not a single dry eye amongst the companions. And no one wanted to say it, but everyone felt it, that this puzzle is perfect, the Prophet is missing. Because this would have been nice if the Prophet was with us too. It would have been nice that, maybe at Quds the Prophet is with us. It would have been nice, you get that job, your father's with you, but he's not with you anymore. It would have been nice that you finally get married and your mother's passed away. It would have been nice my mom was with me. It would have been nice to have your family with you. Right? But that's dunya for us. That's Allah's test. His adhan reminded everyone about the love of the Prophet ﷺ. And then years later, he's in Sham. Now, I'll end with the story. And the story is mentioned by Ibn Hisham in his seerah, that Bilal hasn't gone back to Medina since then. So Bilal is narrating this hadith radiallahu anhu, and he says, one night I see in my dream, the Prophet ﷺ comes in my dream, and he says, Ma hadhihi al-jafwa ya Bilal. Ma hadhihi al-jafwa ya Bilal. He says, oh Bilal, what's up with this lack of loyalty, huh? Ma hadhihi al-jafwa. Jafa means to be hard-hearted. What's up with this hard-heartedness that you got going on against me? Awala tazurna. In his dream, he sees his dream that the Prophet ﷺ is saying to him, like, what's going on, man? Don't you love me? Why don't you come visit me? Ama laka alla tazurani. Why don't you? And this is, in our beautiful faith, we believe that when you visit a loved one, the Prophet ﷺ says, إِذَا مَرَّ بِقَبْرِ أَخِيهِ الْمُسْلِمِ. This hadith is in Sahih Muslim and it's authenticated. That when you pass by a Muslim's grave that you knew in this world, and you say salam, رَدَّ عَلَيْهِ السَّلَامِ فَيَسْتَأْنِسُ بِهِ. That not only do they respond to your salam, they actually feel the comfort of you coming. They feel the comfort of this person coming. So he says, أَمَا لَكَ أَلَّا تَزُورَنِي. Why don't you come and visit me? And he wakes up in the middle of the night, and he turns towards his wife and he says, دَعَانِي خَلِيلِي. So my friend is calling me. And everyone knew who Khalil was for Bilal. In the middle of the night, he gathers his animals and his caravan and he rushes towards Medina. And he gets back, and after his travel, he reaches Madinatul Munawwara. Now imagine, these generation of people who are alive at this point, yes, are some Sahaba, but they're also the younger generation. that all they've heard about Bilal is his stories. Bilal called the adhan. Bilal called the adhan. Bilal did this. Radiallahu anhu. And they see Bilal coming back to Medina. It's almost as if, the narrator mentions, Anas ibn Malik mentions, it's almost as if the Prophet was back with us. Because we always found Bilal to be with the Prophet ﷺ. So it's like, someone who you really love, if they have a really close friend, and they're always together, and one of them passes away, the loved one that you love passes away. Like my brother has some really, really close friends, right? And those young friends of his classmates, every time we see them, it makes us miss our brother more. Because we remember him, because those were his buddies. Like literally on my phone, I have their names saved as my brother. Because they were like my brother, because of the fact that they loved my brother. But since he's not there, every time I see them, it's like, man. So imagine seeing Bilal, who was the Prophet's beloved. The Prophet is back. And then Hassan Umar radiallahu anhu comes and says, Bilal, you want to call the adhan? You have the honors. He says, no, I'm good. People are like, yo, Bilal, please call the adhan. I'm good. Then Umar radiallahu anhu comes to Hassan and Hussein, the grandsons of the Prophet ﷺ. And he says, O the rayhana, O the flowers of the Prophet's heart. If we want to get Bilal to call the adhan, there's only one way. You have to request him to do so. If you both request him to call the adhan, he won't have the ability to say no to you. So Hassan and Hussein, they come to Bilal. Say, Ya Amma, so uncle, would it be okay if you go ahead and call the adhan for us? And Bilal looks upon them and he says, I know it's hard. Uncle, please, for us. And he says to the grandsons of the Prophet ﷺ, that I never had it in me to say no to your grandfather. How can I possibly say no to his loved ones? I can't say no. And the narrator mentions that he goes and he starts calling the adhan, and it says, فما روي يوم أكثر باكٍ ولا باكية بالمدينة بعد رسول صلى الله عليه وسلم من ذلك اليوم. He says, as Bilal came on the stage, on the pulpit, and he started calling the adhan, Anas ibn Malik says that the entire city of Medina, it almost blew up. He says that people left their homes without covering their heads. The kids started running out, mothers, fathers, everyone. And they say, oh, the Prophet is here. They knew the Prophet had passed away, but the nostalgia of it, the Prophet is here. And then when he got to Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, he never was able to pass this. He couldn't continue. And the narrator mentions that in Medina, we never saw a day where people cried more than the day that Bilal called the adhan after the passing of the Prophet ﷺ. We never saw a day like this after that. Because his voice was reminding the entire Medina of what used to be. He would call the adhan, the Prophet would walk out. Right? But your friends, the adhan is the same. The words haven't changed. The comfort that comes with it hasn't changed. The Prophet ﷺ would ask Bilal, Rihna ya Bilal, with the adhan when he was struggling. The adhan hasn't changed. We have to ask ourselves, does the adhan bring me comfort? When the adhan is called, is it a moment of, man, I gotta pray? Or is it a moment of saying, man, these were the words that brought comfort to a broken heart? A heart who had to bury 6 of his 7 children. A heart that had to bury his uncle. These were the words that he would rely upon for the sanity of his mind and the comfort of his heart. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Imam Ghazali says, why were these words so comforting? He says, in every ringing of the word Allahu Akbar, the Prophet understood that Allah is greater than whatever he's going through. Allah is greater than every difficulty that you're experiencing. Allah is greater than every blessing that I missed out on. Allah is greater. Just the fact that Allahu Akbar was the starting part of the adhan would bring comfort to the Prophet ﷺ. Because Allah is greater than this. Right? And this was the last time They say Bilal called the adhan, and as he was on his deathbed in Sham and he's about to pass away, his wife, subhanAllah, they say that Abdurrahman ibn Auf, the wife of Bilal, was the sister of Abdurrahman ibn Auf. Remember that story I said? Remember that story that I mentioned? They say that Abdurrahman ibn Auf's story, he got him married to his own sister. Her name was Hala bint Auf. Well, that's profound, man. Like, one is like apologize and it's all cute to say like, yeah, your qadr is your qadr. But yeah, but I still feel for you, right? Why don't you marry my sister instead? Why don't you marry my sister? Right? The wealthiest woman of Medina. Why don't you marry her instead? Take her. And he was married to Hala bint Auf. Some say her name was Naila bint Auf. Both are mentioned. Hala is a stronger opinion. So she is the one, her husband is resting on her lap, and as he's slowly breathing his last, she says, "Ah, wa huzna, wa huzna." Oh man, what a day of grief. What a day of sorrow. That Bilal, the mu'adhin of the Prophet, the Prophet's executive assistant, the Prophet's source of comfort, like he was a symbol, right? He's a symbol. Bilal is passing away. And as he would gain his consciousness back and his ability to speak, he would say to his wife, "La taquli hakadha." Don't you say that. Don't say what a day of sorrow. وَلَكِنْ قُولِي وَفَرَحَا وَتَرَبَا. Say what a day of joy. What a day of happiness. غَدًا نَلْقَى مُحَمَّدًا وَحِسْبًا. Because tomorrow I will be able to meet the Prophet and his companions again. It's a day of joy. I know what's to come to me. You know, a time in our life, sometimes it comes, may Allah give us long, healthy lives, but the loved ones that we have on the opposite end are far more than the loved ones that we have on this end. At that point, wa faraha, man. Like, I'm ready to go to meet the Prophet again. A man, Thawban radiyallahu anhu, he says, one day I came to the Prophet and said, "Ya Rasulullah," I was sitting with my family and I was enjoying the moment. Then it suddenly came upon me that my kids and my wife will also pass away. Then I remember that's okay because Jannah will be together. But then it came to me that, what about you, Ya Rasulullah? When you pass away, you'll be much higher than us. And what is Jannah without your companionship? And the Prophet had no answer until Allah revealed, "وَمَن يُطِعِ اللَّهَ وَالرَّسُولَ فَأُولَٰئِكَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِم مِّنَ النَّبِيِّينَ وَالصِّدِّيقِينَ وَالشُّهَدَاءِ وَالصَّالِحِينَ وَحَسُنَ أُولَٰئِكَ رَفِيقًا. That whosoever obeys Allah and His Messenger, they will be with Allah and His Messenger. And the Prophet said, "Al-mar'u ma'a man ahab." That a person will be with those whom they love. Anas ibn Malik said, there was nothing in our life that brought us more happiness after Islam than the statement of the Prophet saying that you will be with those whom you love. Because our closeness to the Prophet was not tailored upon good deeds, it was built upon love for the Prophet. If it was built upon good deeds, then you and I both know we would be in the back of the line, because Sahabas are in front of us. But it's built upon love for the Prophet. Right? It's built upon love. Like, we were not fortunate enough. Like, for us, we were not fortunate enough to see the Prophet in this life. But for us, if I can live a life like how Bilal, take some qualities from him, some aspects of his life, and my ability to do so, or rather my motivation to do so, is just so that I can see the Prophet and he can be pleased with me, and he can be happy with me. Bilal says, you know what? I'm confident that the moment I leave this world, the Prophet will be waiting for me. I'll get a chance. Why was it so that Fatima radiyallahu anha for 6 months never smiled till the day that she passed away? She smiled, she cried, then she smiled when the Prophet spoke to her, right? And she cried because the Prophet was leaving, but she smiled knowing that she was the first one to meet him again. Man, I don't know about you all, but that's like a different type of love. Imagine someone that you really love is passing away, like, yeah, but you're going to see me soon. Like, bro, whoa. I'm not sure about the soon stuff, but I'll see you. I'll come visit you. And you know, even someone you love. I'm trying to be rational with this. Like, Even someone who you so dearly love says to you, yeah, I'll see you like in a few, very soon. Like, bro, what are you talking about? My dream, right? And Fatima was like, that made her smile. Like, yes, I'm going to meet the Prophet. That made her smile. Because they loved the Prophet ﷺ. Right? We were not, a man came to Qal Awsi rahmatullahi alayhi, said, أخبرني بشيء نشتاق به إلى الجنة. He said, tell me something that will increase my longing to want to go to Jannah. Tell me something that will increase my longing to want to go to Jannah. He said 3 words, فيها رسول الله. And Jannah is the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? The story of Bilal, as beautiful as it is, the highlight of the story is not that he was the mu'adhin. It's not that he sacrificed. It was his love for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It was his love for Tawheed. You know, Umar radiallahu anhu one day asked him that, why did you keep saying Ahad, Ahad? Why not say something else? One day he asked him, why did you keep saying Ahad? Why not say something else? He said, Wallahi, لو تعلمت كلمة غير ذلك لقلتها. He said, Wallahi, if I knew something other than this, I would have said it. If I knew something other than this, I would have said that too. But all I knew about Allah was He was قل هو الله أحد. That's all I knew. He loved Allah and he loved his Prophet, and he wasn't a person that was content with just being the man who sacrificed. He continued on his journey towards Allah. Allah will test us with different moments of our life. My dear friends, our situations do not define us, our responses do. We got to find the Bilal within ourselves, and we have to find the Bilals in our communities. It's nice to love Bilal, but as I said earlier, man, we got to find the Bilals in our communities. And sometimes you got to search for them. Prophet says there are some people who have shabby clothes, who don't have clear, clothes, and they don't present themselves in the best way. But these are people that if they raise their hand, Allah will accept their dua. People are there. And also Bilal is a beloved person to us because of his connection to Allah. Stand for justice is only as beautiful as your iman is. I can stand in a protest, but the impact of it will be very minimal in comparison to a person saying Ahad so silently, yet so impactfully. Well, no one can hear him, but the mountains are shaking because of it. Because that's iman. Iman has power. Loudness is not synonymous to being heard. Silence is not synonymous to weakness. Right? Our iman is what brings impact. So a person grows their faith through their good deeds. And their good deeds have impact because of their faith. It's a cycle. And everything else evolves around it. We have to make a commitment sitting here today that from today onwards, our frame of reference will be Allah. Our frame of reference will be the commandments of Allah. And where we slip, we know Allah will forgive us. But our commitment to this deen is not a despite, it's a because of. It's not a despite, man. We're not making it despite of deen, we're making it because of deen. Until we don't shift that mentality, our kids will also be raised the same way. We'll always be raised with an inferiority complex, not because of colonization, because of ourselves. Because of ourselves. We were born and raised in this country, man. We don't got much to do with colonization. My parents are both physicians from Pakistan. They have a lot to do with colonization, their mindsets, their mentality. Not us, we're born and raised here. For majority of us that are sitting here, right? So how our kids and our children will be raised in this country will be because of us. In our mindset towards this deen. Deen can never be a burden because it's beautiful. It's a source of relief. The Prophet called the adhan a source of relief, a source of comfort. And if we don't feel it, it's okay. We all have our journey. It's perfectly okay not to experience what Bilal experienced. It's okay. But it's not okay to not want it. I'll say it again. It's okay to not experience it. But it's not okay to not want it. We have to want that feeling. We have to want that experience, man. That I want to hear the adhan that way as well. And then when we go to Medina to the Munawwara, keep these stories in your mind. How Bilal walked the streets. We want that experience. People watch movies and say, man, I want that type of a wedding. Bro, that's Bollywood, it's fake. It's more fake than anything here. But you still want it. Like, I still want it. But it's fake. Right? Because when you hear about it, even though you can't get it, you still want it. right? And this is what we want in our life, even though we might not be able to experience it. But إِنَّمَا الْعَمَلُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, the desire for it will be enough for us to be rewarded for it, inshallah. May Allah allow us to be amongst those people that don't simply name our children Bilal, but also actually try our best to live a life of Bilal. We stand for justice where it matters most, which is Iman. We don't let frivolous things become a reason for us to be distracted by that which is important. Ibn Qayyim rahmatullah alayhi says, rather Ibn Ata'ullah, I'll end with this promise. Ibn Ata'ullah says, that a man came to him and said to him, how do you define lahu to me? How do you define lahu? You know Allah says, Alhaakumut takathur. It's lahu. Lahu generally means like vain talk, vanity, right? Flippantness. He says, how do you define lahu? La'ibun wa lahu. He says, كل ما يشغلك عما يعنيك فهو له. كل ما يشغلك عما يعنيك. Everything that distracts you from that which is more important for you in that moment is lahu. Everything that distracts you from that which is more important for you in that moment is lahu. In other words, if I'm sitting with my father or mother and I look at a text from my friend, that's lahu for me at that moment. That's more important to me right now. This is more important. Salat time masjid, doing something else will be called lahu. Whatever is the most important thing for me in that moment, shaitan will distract us. You'll say, you know what? I know it's important to stand for Gaza in Sudan, but you know what? The animals also need you to stand for them. No, they do. But not at the cost of standing for the people of Gaza. Right? So you know what? Yeah, you're right, man. You got to support people. But you know what? Those people need, how about this right here? Let's water these fruits for now. Yeah, water the fruits, but don't pacify your need of watering bigger things in your life, which is supporting the causes that we need to support. Right? Yushghiluka. He distracts us. He distracts us, man. He makes us catch a small fish and forget about the big fish. Right? So that's what we want. We want to be able to identify what is the need for me in my spiritual journey right now and commit to it. Right? Like Bilal did. Everyone should make their own commitment. Right? There is no talk, there's no lecture in our beautiful deen without a commitment that everyone makes. But we make our own commitments to Allah. That from today onwards, I struggle with praying Fajr, I will pray Fajr from today onwards. This is not called being judged, it's called making an intention. I make an intention today, from today on, I don't give charity, I will start giving charity. I have enough money to go for Hajj, I will make my intention to go for Hajj. These are gatherings where our hearts are soft, where intentions are made and accepted. This is where du'as are accepted. Don't let the opportunity of Allah's opening of a window go to waste. Make your intentions. And I make my intentions, and wallahi, whatever intentions we make, Allah will give us more than that. I remember going to Aqsa for the first time. I had my classmate Mal Sharyar with me. We went to Aqsa for the first time together. And I remember walking in, and my father saying to me once, he said, when you go to Aqsa, ask Allah to make you like Salahuddin. I was like, bro, that's too much, chill. How are you doing too much? I mean, my father used to my dad to do too much. Like, Allah, ko Bill Gates bana de. Like that, no, I ain't white. It's not going to happen. He's like, you know, he said, ask Allah to make you like Salahuddin. I said, Buji, what do you mean, man? He said, I said, why not? There's nothing too difficult for Allah. There's nothing too difficult for Allah. Allah took him and made him who, why can't Allah make someone like us become someone of that nature? Why not? There's nothing too difficult for Allah. Allah answers our du'as based upon our expectations of them. You know, we run an institution called Miftah, and we have sister organizations. If I go to a wealthy donor that I know Allah has blessed, and I go to him asking him for support for our institution, and I say to him, you know what, or her, can you help me out? You know, we have this issue going on, can you support? We need some of your, you know, your zakat, your sadaqah. In my mind, I know how much he can give me. But if I go in with the expectation of 5,000 and he gives me 5,000, I'll be happy. But in my mind, I know this person can give me 50,000. I'm going to ask him for how much? How much am I going to ask him for? 50. I said, brother, give me $50,000, please. I'm not going to ask him for 5. But Allah has the khaza'in of this dunya. عِنْدَهُ خَزَائِنُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Why would I ask him for anything less for myself or my family? Right? This is called iman, just belief in it, and then we act upon it. Allah makes the belief stronger. Right? It gets cemented and solidified by doing so. May Allah bless you all, may Allah reward you all. I shortened the class by a little bit. I wanted to get it done by 10 o'clock, and I believe I was able to do so. May Allah bless you all, reward you all. You guys are a beautiful, beautiful audience. You're a beautiful community. You are one of the rare beautiful communities that are downtown communities that actually grow. Because most downtown masjids, we travel around the whole country, most downtown masjids are just masjids for Jum'ah, right? And mashallah, you guys are doing such a great job for those that are from this community. And outside of that, Seattle community is blessed, mashallah. You have some great mashayikh, like Sheikh Fadl and others that have been here for so many years. May Allah bless them, give them long, healthy lives. Sheikh Joban, may Allah bless your current Imam, Imam Akram that is here, Imam Adam who's in Maps Redmond. So many Imams in your community, may Allah bless them and continue to give them the ability to serve your community. May Allah bless this masjid. May Allah continue filling it the way that He has filled it for us till the Day of Judgment. Allow it to continue being used, and you believe in it, that this masjid will be a place where people will come into. Today we had Alex, right, who accepted Islam at Jum'ah, mashallah, takbir. And he's been sitting with us for the last 3 hours with Alex. May Allah bless you, may Allah reward you, and hopefully we didn't overwhelm you with all these interesting stories. You know, it's like, bro, man, this is like getting too deep for me. I thought it was just belief in Allah. I don't know about all this dying stuff is happening, right? May Allah bless you, may Allah increase your faith and increase all of our faith. Inshallah, one day we go to Umrah together, inshallah, as well. See the Holy Lands together, inshallah. But you have a beautiful, may Allah bless you guys, protect you guys. Please make dua for us, for Miftah, for our institution. Make dua for our teachers. Make dua for our parents. Ustaz Akram, should we do a small panel or should we call it? You guys have any questions or are we good? Any questions? Mm-hmm.
The statues, and his people were asking who did this. In the Quran, they said, "Sami'na fatan yadhkuruhum."
يقال له إبراهيم.
So they described him as like a little boy.
Yeah.
His name is Ibrahim. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He described Ibrahim in the Quran, He said, "Inna Ibrahim kana ummah."
Yeah.
So Ibrahim alayhi salam was a whole nation.
Mm-hmm.
And every year when we do Hajj, we commemorate the story
Of Ibrahim alayhi salam.
And it doesn't matter, like, even if your name is mentioned in the Quran, we literally read Surah Al-Kahf every single Jum'ah, and it commemorates the story of the young boys who escaped their town because they were afraid for their religion. For the sake of Allah, they left their town, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like, commemorated their story. They never knew that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was going to honor them that way. They just left for the sake of Allah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commemorated this story.
In that manner, yeah.
Surah Al-Kahf every Jum'ah, just to remind ourselves that if we take the step and we do things for the sake of Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to
100%. Those are beautiful, beautiful reflections, sister. Jazakallah khair. Round of applause for the sister for the beautiful reflection. Jazakallah khair. I'll say this much. It's possible that we don't get commemorated that way. And we have to be comfortable in knowing that. That not every ahad voice will become a mu'adhin. That's the reality. If it was the case, and if that was a case that every child that was put into a casket would have became a Musa, then it would have been easy to do. Right? We don't know that. The difficulty is knowing that we might not be commemorated. The difficulty is knowing that we might not be honored. The difficulty is knowing that that might not happen and I'm still okay to do so. Because in the akhirah, that's the ultimate reward. فَهُوَ فِي عِيشَةٍ رَاضِيَةٍ. Because the belief that it will happen in dunya, it may or may not sway us. May or may not, right? It might not happen. But we have to be comfortable with both cases. But yes, these are beautiful, beautiful stories in the Quran. May Allah bless you all. May Allah reward you all. Jazakallah khair, everyone. Inshallah, we'll see you all next time we come to Seattle. Please visit us in Michigan as well. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.